The Bible. Is it hard to understand?
When it comes to reading the Bible, the first thing that comes to mind is the fact that this is the Word of God.
The seals have been broken, and the truth is here.
And when we go throughout the scriptures, when we go throughout extra biblical records, we find that the language that God employed, that He used to create the heavens and the earth, was the Hebrew language.
Christ said, I came for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. But yet no one, no religious leader, no religious church out there anywhere can now identify the 12 tribes of Israel. Can we? God is quite simple, but it seems as if man makes understanding Him hard.
What are those mysteries?
The truth of your book and the truth will make you free. The Hebrew and Bible Academy, you're invited.
The East is where we're from.
Shalom, shalom. Come on in.
The 12 tribes of Israel. In 721 BC,
Shalom, shalom.
the Assyrian king, he took us down, we fell. With a great escape, we went through the Euphrates. The Lord held the water still. To a land where no mankind dwelt, we went. The 12 tribes of Israel. So we be Manasseh, the Cubans, Ephraim from Puerto Rico, Naphtali from the Isles of Hawaii. The Lord is calling back Israel. Zebulon from Panama, Gad, the North American Indians, Simeon, the Dominicans, our highest gathering Israel. The Arabs and Africans told us, together our wives and children then sold us.
In the belly of these slave
In the
ships,
belly of these great ships we traveled in fear.
by the rivers of Babylon,
By the rivers of Babylon we found our brothers here. Our higher gatherers in Colombia, Reuben from Australia, Issachar, the Mexicans, our highest gathering is Judah, the Negroes, Benjamin, the West Indians,
come on, hit the like button.
the Haitians,
Reinforce
our highest
serious broadcast.
gathering is
That's right, brothers and sisters. The Most High's gather in Israel. I'm Elder Rikash Yar of the Gathered of Christ Church, here with our weekly blog talk live broadcast throughout the four corners of the earth. Shalom, shalom. Just getting back from South Carolina, man. What a trip. Thank you for your hospitality, my brothers and sisters there, and some of what I've seen. Looking at the plantations and the fact that 40% of our people came through those waters into America to serve according to Deuteronomy. Seeing it myself, folks, it was surreal. How all the nations has gained so much wealth, actually building on top of the blood, sweat, and tears of the children of Israel. And it was good looking at it, but of course it was somber in so many ways. And it tell you, listen, no one can tell me anything about our people when it comes to fortitude and perseverance. Okay, I don't know if any other people on earth could have went through what we've gone through as a people, building this country from scratch, and not just this country, the world. All right, and yet We are a people without any vengeance in our heart against anyone. I don't think any other people would have gone through what we've gone through and and outright wouldn't have revolted by now. But I digress. Vengeance is the Lord's. We're a very forgiving people, but sometimes we're trusting at our own peril, and that's why I'm glad we're having the conversations we had like last week, and the conversations we will continue to have going forward. As you can see, the title of our lesson today is Israelites Under the Spotlight. I know so many brothers and sisters is here. On the back of our broadcast last week with Harry Rosenberg. All right. Now, we're going to begin the broadcast with a little piece of the conversation with the rabbi last week. All right. We're going to start the broadcast with that. We planned a little phone tag today. He did call earlier, but yet, I couldn't pick up. I've tried to reach him on all fronts through Skype, telephone, all 3 numbers I have from him, but yet now it's going directly to email. I hope he's okay. And Harry, if you're out there, let's pick up this conversation from where we left off last week, or we can reschedule for another time, but that's not going to stop the broadcast. We're still going to go into some serious detail and information to edify this evening. All right. Since we're now over, let's see how many people we have. Okay, let's get the current views up over 1,000. Let's get that over 1,000, and then I'll jump right into the broadcast. We have a lot in this broadcast. Israelites Under the Spotlight. Okay. And let me mention before I go into the broadcast real quick that yes, December 4th begins a new installment of our Hebrew and Bible Academy. I hope to see you there. We have a lot of brand new lessons that I know you all would like to be involved in. I will go into the lesson, Surviving the Wilderness. Okay. I'm going to go into how once the war comes, how this world will be spiraled back into, a non-technological world. The world will break down into tribes, eventually leading us to protect ourselves all the way to the wilderness like we were coming out of Egypt. And once we're outside of the city construct, a lot of us are going to realize what's really out here. Okay. The cities that we live in are really, believe it or not, a fortress against, protecting civilization from what's out there as far as the real world outside of the Babylonian constructs. And I'm going to be talking about that. And I'm talking about Nephilim, different creatures that they know exist. I'm talking about what they claim to be Bigfoot and all this other stuff. What's really out there? Well, we're going to contend against all of that like we did leaving Egypt, going into the land of Canaan. Folks, there was many different types of battles, and I'm talking about with beings outside of the construct. And I'm going to be talking about that and more. And listen, there's not fairy tale, sci-fi. Folks, I'm going to go into the university records I have. The fact that they know that there were interactions with giants and all that. Okay? In the founding of America. There was interactions. Hey, the first Masonic temple here in Philadelphia, a regular sized man cannot sit in that chair. So, folks, when the Bible tells us about Nephilim and all these things, folks, these are the controllers inside some of these mountains that are actually controlling politics and control the powers that be that we believe represents us. And guess what? They're going to cut loose on people when the cities break down. That and more in the academy. Hey, you don't want to miss this. It's going to be the same way. And in that lesson, Surviving the Wilderness, I'm going to also touch on, folks, Ruth's ethnicity based on behind the conversation I've had last week with the rabbi there's a lot of confusion concerning how Ruth genealogy links to Christ with her being a quote unquote Moabite. Well, folks, I've done the research 100%. I'm going to teach it in Surviving the Wilderness. Ruth was not a Moabite, and I'm going to prove it. Surviving the Wilderness will tell you exactly how. That's right. Israelites stayed in that land after getting rid of all of the Moabites before Joshua and Caleb led our forefathers over into the land of Canaan. And Ruth came out of the bloodlines of those Israelites who settled in that land of Moab. And I have the proof. I'm going to use maps, real-time 3D maps. Thank you for your help with the Academy, because we're bringing it on a whole nother level now. We're going to have the maps that highlight and show you all of that. And the chronology of when Ruth's family was settled into that area before we went over into Israel. That and more. Okay? We're going to deal with the conversions of Gentiles into Judaism. And I'm going to deal with that, a separate lesson, the split between Israel and Judah. And of course, in that lesson, we're going to ask the question, and we're going to answer that. Who is the Jew? You got black people claiming to be Israelites or Jews. And on top of that, you have white people who we know are an entirely different, family, claiming to be the same people. One promise, two separate races claiming the same thing. Okay, that's confusing. Some might claim, well, it doesn't matter. For you doesn't matter, people. You need to be in this academy. Okay, you need to be in this academy because you're going to realize how much it does matter. You wouldn't have some people over in Israel claiming that land if it didn't have prophetic significance concerning an age-old promise that was given to Abraham. So that and more. So what I ask you all, make sure you go to historytimes.org to enroll. All right, historytimes.org, okay? Now, right now, we got a brand new camera. I know it's a little dark in here, whatever the case. I'm going to adjust that later, but just stick with me as we go on and go into this broadcast tonight. Israelites under the spotlight. That's right. Go to historytimes.org. Thank you, Elder Dell. Thank you very much. Okay, we're well over 1,200. Okay, so that's good. Hit the like button as you come in. Let's dive into the broadcast. I'll keep my phone available in case Harry Rosenberg called back in. And I have some good news. I know the author and the producer of Hebrews to Negroes will be listening in tonight. And he may call in on the Blog Talk line. Of course, he will be a physical guest very soon here. We're looking to have him here and in the academy. We're going to talk about a few things behind the scenes. But he will be listening tonight. He does follow this particular Blog Talk. He's been following our church as far as and recognizing the work that have been done here for a while. And we had some people. We all reached out. He's listening, but he's somewhere with his family, so he cannot dive in. The plan was for him to come in tonight at a certain time while Harry Rosenberg was in and tell Harry, listen, here's the man that's behind the particular production. If you'd like to ask him any questions of whether or not he's anti-Semite, or if you have an issue that he should correct or apologize for, let's discuss it outright so that we can crush any spirit of hate going forward. A conversation on either side to come to an equal medium, at least if we don't agree, a level of respect remains, right? So, but I'll save that for another time. I digress, but how you doing, Mr. Dalton? I'm glad you'll be calling in tonight. If you call in, 515-605-9327. Yeah, we're doing it. We're doing it. And guess what? Brothers and sisters, do you know that I titled this Israelites Under the Spotlight right after the last week's broadcast? Listen, I had no idea when Kyrie would come back Sunday, right? I had no idea that the brothers from IUIC and others will be out there and stop traffic and march down on Barclay. I had no idea. But I don't know if y'all recognize in particular, the mainstream media is doing everything, not to mention everything. They say everything purposely, indirectly, without addressing the fact that those were Israelites out there, right? They're calling them protesters. But I digress. Even outside of that, man, I'm going to talk about that and more this evening, because some people may ask, well, what is my opinion on a lot of that, right? And I'm going to talk about that, right? But bringing it back into the frame of where we are, Israelites under the spotlight. Ice Cube, 2019, before the election. Ice Cube, a black man who was himself involved in creating the gangster rap culture. Okay. Of course, he was young and didn't know any better, but it was incentivized by the corporations who continue to destroy us. And Ice Cube made almost a whole album attacking his former manager, right? Now, of course, he was from a certain religious persuasion, but I digress. And through time, Ice Cube began to understand the error of his ways, even though he was using his musical talent to help get his family, out of lower means. He realized that this destructive culture that comes from gangster rap was really counterproductive, worse than crack itself, devaluing black people. But then Ice Cube, you started to see his change in his appearance. And you started to realize, and then he put it out there with a tweet showing that the Israelites in Egypt were black people. Then there was this is 2019. He was what? Without saying it, he was showing that he realized that our people need to come back to the law. And on top of that, that he realized, according to prophecy as well as blood, that we are in fact the children of Israel, cursed for disobeying God. After him in 2019, there was also Deshaun Jackson. He was reprimanded and told that he needed to go to the Holocaust place, the Holocaust Museum, and apologize for his tweets and some of what he put out there, claiming that we are the children of Israel. And he started to look different. You started to see a difference. On top of that, subsequent to that, right before that, we had Kendrick Lamar. This is all 2018, 2019. It's in our DNA, right? He said, don't call him Negro, don't call him black. He's from Judah. Right? Right? Outright, you would think other nations or other people would celebrate our people finally coming to a conclusion. Coming to the understanding that we're more than just black Negroes or slaves or Gentiles, but we are in fact the lost tribes of Israel. And I'm going to ask Elder Lawyer as we go through with this, and I'm going to open it up for you all in the conversation. Why does this threaten them? Why do they feel that us gaining the knowledge of who we are threatens them? Just by in of itself, it's almost anti-Semitic for these brothers and others claiming that they're Israelites. And also, and I need to put this out there with some of the articles I'll show forth. What do you think their next moves are? Now they realize that they cannot put the cat back in the bag. What is the mainstream media move? What are their next moves, the corporate moves? Now that they know that our people realize who we are. I'm going to put that out there, Elder Lawyer. Get your mind working to answer some of those. Then we had Nick Cannon. Nick Cannon sat down with Professor Griff, right? And he stated that he was an Israelite, but I think the negative came out from the other side, which many would claim was anti-Semitic because he was using the verbiage real Jews. And I think that was the incendiary point that offended those of the Jewish faith or those who believe under Judaism and was raised that way. And that was implying that, okay, if you're the real ones, what are we? And he got into a serious, he got into some serious hot water at that time. But it was all coming at them at once, almost uncontrollable to I would say, to biblical proportions. It was just coming from each angle in 2018, 2019. The same people that was used once through our cultural music to destroy our people, acting out and, wilding out and all these others, all came to a conclusion organically. Like, this wasn't an organized plan for these people to wake up. I mean, it wasn't like they went into a meeting or was under Judaism or had a temple or synagogue to go to realize this. It's as if the Most High began to fulfill his word in waking up his people according to the Bible. But then something happened. The Philo report came out. The Philo report was the Christians' data sheet that started charting, that began to chart what? The rise of Israelites or blacks believing that they could be of the tribes of Israel out of what? The black churches. As if they were charting this the whole time. It was called the Philo Project, where Christians started getting concerned that black people started to believe there was something to us being Israelites within the Christian or the black Christian community. The Philo report came out 2019, and I read that report. In the same report, they had also, with us coming to know we're Israelites, in that report, the Philo Project, it stated, and there's a rise in anti-Semitism. So I'm starting to put this together. Are they claiming that blacks realizing that we're Israelites, are they saying indirectly that that's anti-Semitism, or us realizing we're God's people is aiding to the rise in anti-Semitism they're claiming today? Is that what they're intimating or insinuating, media, without saying it based on? Because why would you have 2019 Philo Project where you're talking about black people are starting to realize they're Israelites when you, due to this poll amongst Christians? And why would you have the anti-Semitism on the rise within the same project if you weren't seeing them together? Us finding out we're Israelites turns us into anti-Semites? Is that what they're saying? I don't know. Maybe Harry will come on and answer that. But they had that. It's called the Philo Project, a Christian project that began to poll black Christians on whether or not they believe they're Israelites. Y'all didn't know that that poll existed. But folks, we're watching everything. And then right after that happened, right after all of this happened in 2019, boom, everything shut down all at once. Businesses, Wuhan, something come from Wuhan. Now everything is shut down. The whole world wearing masks. Now all the corporations lockstep, airlines, businesses. And now all of a sudden what came from Wuhan is disproportionately affecting those in the black community. Churches shut down where no one can actually go to church. And do you all think it's just a coincidence, folks, that the rise 2019 was a rise of our people realizing, men in particular, that we were Israelites. And then all of a sudden, boom. Why would they shut down and change everything and restructure everything on the backs of that? You know why? Because the whole system was built on the children of Israel. That's right. That's right. And through the ignorance of us not realizing we're Israel, the empires thrive. What happens when a slave realizes that he wasn't born to be a slave? That he's no longer under that theology of what? A Gentile that was taught by the enemies that shouldn't be. They taught us in chattel slavery that we were Gentiles or from the cursed seed of Ham through their theologian schools, right? So if you believe that you inherently, that you are through bloodline a Gentile, well, guess what? You would appreciate Jews accepting you in. You automatically, that's right, you automatically appreciate those who will accept you to follow their religion, and you'll accept the position as second class according to that prophecy. That's right, Ham's son Canaan shall be a servant of servants. Systematic slavery that comes through the indoctrination of modern day Christianity if we believe we were born to work for everyone else. So once the Most High began to break that programming, they realized no Israelites, no empire. We need to work and put this in place and put them in their place. So now that our people know, the basketball players and others realize this, what will be their next move is the question. And I'm going to put that out there. Now, before I put that out there, oh yeah, folks, we're watching this seriously. And another thing is playing out. New Testament prophecy. That at the very end, that day shall not come, in Thessalonians, that's right. That day shall not come until that man of sin be revealed. See, the Christians had us looking for a boogeyman, an antichrist, somebody, Hitlerist, or someone like Hitler who would stand up and say, I'm God. No, I think the man of sin is being revealed right now. Another prophecy that said, Paul says, listen, the mystery of iniquity doeth already work. You're looking for a new man to come, and they're working right now. They're about to kill your people and do what? Make Jerusalem desolate. Only the same people who made it desolate will reclaim it as theirs later. And you'll be looking for this boogeyman they've created through the Jesuits, when really the invisible man is playing you right there, live and direct. Now, before I pick it up from where we left off at, Elder Lawyer, there's a few things I want to talk about. A few things I would like to talk about here. How you doing, Elder Lawyer?
Shalom, shalom. I'm doing well.
All right. Israelites under the spotlight. We've been watching this for a while, Elder Lawyer, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Right. And I have here a piece from the New York Times. What to know about Irvin's anti-Semitic movie post and the fallout. Now, my question to you, Elder Lawyer, before I go into some of this, is this a trusted source to hear about what to know concerning Irvin's anti-Semitic movie or post? Should we go to them to know so that we can be educated on what to know?
Yeah, I think it's a conflict of interest, to say the least. It's like going to a fox and asking a fox what is his take on the safety of the chicken coop when it comes to foxes in the chicken coop.
Yeah, I mean, the New York Times is the last place you would want to go to find out what to know about Irvin's anti-Semitic movie post. Shouldn't they do what we're doing? I mean, the brothers could be calling in any second now. Ryan Dalton and ask him. Ask him what to know about the movie. Ask the guy who actually produced it.
Exactly.
See, but that lets you know that there's no true journalism. There's no true journalism. They want to paint this as some type of racist trope and all of that and try to throw out the baby with the bathwater without understanding the value that can uplift and help our people. And with this knowledge, we can also see through that law, the Bible, and the understanding of Christ's enemies. Christ's enemies. One thing that's bad about Christianity, it teaches you to trust blindly everyone. And Christ wasn't going out like that. That's a serious flaw within Christianity that the enemy, the Satanist, the synagogue of Satan takes advantage of. But I digress. What to know about the movie? So they're going to spin it so that others don't go into it and figure out that there could be some truth in there. Now, I'm not going to say anything unless Mr. Dalton calls in, all due respect to his particular documentary. But there's one thing in particular I would like to talk about, Elder Lawyer. As we can see, we have brothers now, indirectly, without saying it, identifying as Israelites. Now, basketball and sports, really, believe it or not, are quasi battlefields for war. All right. It's really warfare on either side, minimalized down to gladiators entertainment. So usually a war class begets a new war class, right? Just look at it from the frame of basketball. Dr. J begot Jordan. That's one warrior begetting through admiration and what? You got it. Looking at him as a role model, and it begot a greater warrior, right? So they understand the power of sports. They understand the power of how Rome used the mob to influence the populace through the warfare of the gladiators. And that's us, right? The gladiators were Israelites, folks. The gladiators, and I can prove that. That's easy to prove. If you don't believe that, call in and I'll give you the information right here. I purposely didn't put the banner up because I'm ready to pull out some books tonight, straight up. But I'm going to show you that there's some sinister spirits at work. Because him identifying as himself an Israelite should be celebrated. It should be in the spotlight and say, finally, God's people are coming home, realizing that this could be the one fix for our community. But I'm going to show you what they expect the warrior class to beget. This is celebrated. Variety magazine. I wonder who's behind Variety magazine. Magic Johnson, on learning to accept his gay son, EJ, he changed me. What happened to the gladiator begetting a gladiator? And guess what? This is celebrated amongst the same group of people who've been attacking Kyrie Irving. And I'm going to call it just that. He's under attack. Gay Times. I wonder who's behind this circulation. Dwayne Wade, and this is a little boy. Dwayne Wade opens up about Zaya Wade and raising a trans child. And you know what? It's celebrated. It's celebrated. I'm going to show you where I'm going here, folks. It's about identity, folks. It has always been about identity. Say what you want, folks. It's always been about identity. Because through identity, that's right, dictates where you are on the pecking order when it comes to the political landscape. It's always been about identity, folks. And what is society telling us? Telling black men, you are to be celebrated if you identify contrary to your nature. You can be celebrated by us, but you better not claim to be Israel. You can identify as any other thing or person. Even, guess what? You can become a different gender if you would like, but do not identify as Israel. Buck breaking, the gladiator class. And I'm going to say this. Where's our apology? A war will soon break out in this earth. And where will be the warrior class to defend the children of Israel's family in the earth now that we realize who we are? Now, Elder Lawyer, there's one other thing. While they're teaching us to do that, now some people might ask, well, what is the destructive spirit that comes behind them pushing so many ideologies, so many divisive groups and all that? Well, by default, the group that stands together under their values without being affected by the indoctrination, the liberal indoctrination, by default becomes the stronger class as the earth divides more and more. So it's winning a war without even fighting it. If you can set the stage for society to destroy one another amongst the divisive lines they're pushing. The racial mixing, the homogenizing of your race or of your culture, while they keep themselves together, isolated within their own communities, not affected. Because why? There's rules amongst their particular communities that won't allow that negative liberalism to destroy them wholesale. Mm-hmm. Right? Now, one other thing I wanted to show, because it's best to hear it from the horse's mouth. Here's a guy who's going to give us some insight to how we should be as a people, right? And he so happened to be a guy who identified as Jewish, right? And I think we can learn something with this, Elder Lawyer. Let me play it.
The whole world keeps on talking about how Jewish people are great at business. And, instead of fighting it, instead of calling that anti-Semitic, I'm going to go in the opposite direction, and I'm just going to own it. If everybody is saying that, then it must be true. So I, as a Orthodox Jewish person, would love to share with you some Jewish business secrets, my top 10 Jewish business secrets. And I hope that you're going to enjoy them. This is great stuff. This is stuff that we've known for thousands of years. And I think that you're really going to appreciate it. And by the way, if you're here to hate, just go somewhere else. This is about love. This is about education. This is about growing. And go take your hate somewhere else. You're not welcome here. But for everybody else that genuinely wants to learn, genuinely wants to grow, I think you're going to get a ton of value. So let's just jump right in. So number one Jewish business secret is we actually have a commandment to teach our children how to earn a living. There's actually two things you have a commandment to. Teach your child how to earn a living and teach your child how to swim, believe it or not. And they're kind of related if you think about it. So it says that if you don't teach your child how to earn a living, it's as if you're teaching them how to steal, because if they don't know how to earn a living, then their only other way to make money is through theft. So teach your children. Fathers have a commandment to teach.
Oh, Elder Lawyer. I don't know if you heard that.
No, sir, I couldn't hear it for some reason.
Well, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to play it back for you so you can hear it through the microphone, okay?
Okay.
I'm going to play it back for you so you can hear it through the microphone real quick. One time. Strictly for you. Hopefully you can hear this, okay? Hopefully you can hear it, right? All right, let me play it again.
The whole world keeps on talking about how Jewish people are great at business. And, instead of fighting it, instead of calling that anti-Semitic, I'm going to go in the opposite direction, and I'm just going to own it. If everybody is saying that, then it must be true. So I, as a Orthodox Jewish person, would love to share with you some Jewish business secrets, 10, actually my top 10 Jewish business secrets, and I hope that you're going to enjoy them. This is great stuff. This is stuff that we've known for thousands of years, and I think that you're really going to appreciate it. And by the way, if you're here to hate, just go somewhere else.
Fair use.
This is about love. This is about education. This is about growing. And go take your hate somewhere else. You're not welcome here. But for everybody else that genuinely wants to learn, genuinely wants to grow, I think you're going to get a ton of value. So let's just jump right in. So number one, Jewish business secret is we actually have a commandment to teach our children how to earn a living. There's actually two things you have a commandment to. Teach your child how to earn a living and teach your child how to swim, believe it or not. And they're kind of related if you think about it. So it says that if you don't teach your child how to earn a living, it's as if you're teaching them how to steal, because if they don't know how to earn a living, then their only other way to make money is through theft. So teach your children. Fathers have a commandment to teach.
Okay. Let me put that back, Elder Lawyer, so you can, since you've heard that. Okay, so you heard that, right? Exactly. So what is this showing in particular, right? Is that there's value in the law where there's a responsibility to the next generation to keep the legacy going according to Torah. Right? If you don't teach your child how to make money or do business, you're teaching him how to steal. Okay? Now that's a moral tradition that he have learned that we should have picked up being Israelites, right? Us knowing we're Israel, now we are now accountable to the next generation, not to homologize, not to get absorbed into the liberal way of doing things, and standing morally to keep what? To keep the power of our existence as a people. Now, there's nothing wrong with what he said, but I'm just trying to show brothers and sisters that they understand, according to the law, the inherent rules as a special people, to be claimed or be deemed a special people. Okay, you cannot expect, brothers and sisters, them to publicly celebrate their warrior class like this. Why? It's against their religion. It's against their way of life. It's against their religion. Right? So, Elder Lawyer, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick it up from where I left off at. Right? And I'm going to pick it up a little bit real quick. I'm going to bring you in a second. And we're going to pick it up from where Harry left off last week with myself. So I'm going to place you on hold. You can listen to it in the back, and I'm going to bring you right back in. Okay, Elder Lawyer? I'm going to bring you out real quick, and you can hear it from the broadcast as I play it. From where we were last week, brothers and sisters, Harry Rosenberg. And Harry, I'm waiting for you to call in. I got you right here, the rabbi. This is where we left off before he had to exit the conversation last week. For those who missed it, hit the like button for me, please. months of 1879, there was a massive migration of some 5,000 blacks to the northern territories of the United States. A matter of fact, let me make sure you all can see it clearly there. Make sure they can see it. One moment. I want you all to be able to see this clear. Hold on. 1 second. Right. Let me make it so you all can see it. There you go. That's better, right? It says here, Harry, I'm going to read it so you'll know that this isn't personal, this is history. Black Jews, the same claimed the premises of the movement. In the first months of 1879, there was a massive migration of some 5,000 blacks to the northern cities of the United States, mainly Kansas and Oklahoma. This exodus was a despairing blacks seeking a refuge, a place where their political rights would mean something, where they would be free from economic exploitation. Of course, we didn't escape that. And above all, from the dangerous activities of the Ku Klux Klan. Now, it's deep for those who have created the Ku Klux Klan, and that's a deep story in of itself. One of the members of this exodus was Benjamin Pap Singleton, an elderly and colorful man who led a group of 300 blacks to Cherokee County in Kansas. There they founded a colony, Singleton's colony, Singleton calling himself the Moses of the exodus of colored people. From 1900 onwards, North and South Carolina were overrun by black preachers who were propagating a doctrine according to which the lost tribes of Israel was none other than Negroes. Although this might at first sight seem an odd claim, it can be seen as reflecting the beliefs that some black slaves had held during their captivity when they were interrogated on their origins, their destiny, a history when they were interrogated on their origins and destiny. A historical example supports this hypothesis. A slave uprising took place in Richmond, Virginia in the beginning of the 19th century, which was led by a slave called Gabriel Prosser, an outstanding personality who had acquired some knowledge of the Bible. He frequently referred to it in order to convince his brothers that they were descendants of the Israelites. And God would free them from slavery as he had their ancestors. He identified himself with Samson, his favorite biblical character. Like Samson, he wore his hair long as a sign given by God of the alliance made with his people. Gabriel Prosser was convinced that God had chosen him to free his people from the depths of slavery. Like a black Samson, he would break the chains of slavery and found a nation of free blacks in America. His fall was dramatic. During a night raid, a violent storm broke. His companions, petrified, fled, convinced that they were the victims of the divine wrath. They abandoned him. Now, eventually they killed him, but he said emphatically that he was from the lost tribes of Israel. Now, what I have here before you, Rabbi Rosenberg, is history studied through Cambridge. And before I ask you the question, what do you think about this history that even coming off the ships, we were practicing our Israelite traditions? And interrogation, even slave masters found out that we were, in fact, Hebrews based on the traditions brought over here to the Americas before we were re-educated. Now, I need to ask you, in particular, what I've just read, strictly from Cambridge University, which is not a conspiracy theory or anti-Semitic. I need you to, what are your thoughts on what I've just read? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, this is what I've been saying for like 10 years already, is that you have these guys in Nigeria doing 8-day circumcision, not eating pig, keeping all these customs of the laws of Moses, all of a sudden the ships come to America, it would make total sense that some of these traditions and legends and ideas are coming on the ships with the individuals. That makes total sense.
So he did admit, the rabbi last week did admit that there is some truth to slaves coming from Africa continuing in our practices as Hebrews, right? Before getting re-educated here in America under white Christianity.
Sense. But just like you find these type of things happening in Nigeria, same thing in Afghanistan. They say they're from the house of Israel. They're doing 8-day circumcision, the laws of Moses, left and right. They have these all these things. So for us, the Jewish people, one doesn't invalidate the other. It makes total sense that the house of Israel,
hit the like
from
button,
Western
folks.
Africa, came to America on ship. But that doesn't mean that the whole other international phenomenon of who are from the house of Israel becomes invalidated just because one group is from the house of Israel.
Okay, see, you probably do. I think this is done by you not intentionally, but subconsciously. Automatically, when history is brought out concerning us, it seems as if you go on the defense and say it doesn't mean something negative for me.
Not really,
I need you to hear this real quick. Listen, hear what I'm saying. Hear what I'm saying. I'm allowing you to talk. What I just brought out had nothing to do with not validating who you are and what you believe. I just asked you, what did you believe about this history of our people?
When you talk, you say very often the true descendants of the house of Israel. Now, according to logic, for you to have to use the word true, it's implying there are untrue ones out there. Otherwise, you would say you're from the house of Israel.
But all due respect to you, Rabbi, I didn't say that when bringing this history forth. I'm just asking you, and specifically of this history, not going on the outside of it. What do you think about this? That when when blacks came over, you notice, folks, I never said the history that came through Cambridge, showing off of the ships in the late 1700s and 1800s that we knew we were Hebrews. I never even intimated or insinuated at all that it means we're the true Jews. See? So I wanted to highlight that because these are tactics that are used to avoid what? Absolutely understanding and coming on one accord regardless of race. So, folks, I'm saying this because we have to understand how they're hearing it. They're hearing it through their feelings and what it means for them if we realize that we were lied to. And that's how they hear it without just accepting the fact that we're just stating this has nothing to do with you. What do you think about the history that proves that us becoming Israelites wasn't some new fad that came with the internet? That there's not people being radicalized and all that. This is God's prophecy given back, promising to give back the knowledge to the people who were enslaved and were once under the curse of Deuteronomy 28. What do you think about that? Not how you feel about how people will think about you, but somehow they cannot listen constructively without injecting themselves and listening to how our people understanding this will affect them. And unless we start having a genuine conversation, we're going to stay, at odds. He was hearing the whole time, true Jew, true Jew. And I never say anything about true Jew. I said that what do you think about this history of slaves coming from Africa, knowing they were Hebrews before the Christian indoctrination? More. Slaves, they were practicing as Hebrews, and there were slaves, Christian slaves, teaching that we're from the lost tribes of Israel. What you say on that?
Yeah, as I said before, that would make total sense to me.
Oh, exactly. So let's start there. Because what you probably didn't know. Now, you notice he said that that would make perfect sense to me. See? He told the truth. That makes sense to him. Right? That makes sense that the blacks that came over here on cargo slave ships aren't from the seed of Ham, like they teach in modern day Christianity. And he know that's true. That we're from the seeds of Shem, which means we're Shemite. And if you come against us and do things politically against us, by default, under that label, if you hurt black people, you are anti-Semitic. If you promote us in a negative light, that sends out a message that others can what? Come against us or seek to destroy us because you are promoting us in a negative light. Okay? So we should be protected under the same label as that. Now that we know that we're Israelites, and when Rabbi come on here, I'm going to show him the book that I have called Germans Black Holocaust, showing how many black people were killed by the Germans. But we're not going to go to 1945. We're going to go to 1890. From 1890 to 1945 to show Germans killing black people. So, Harry, I know you're listening to this. Call in. We'll talk about it. Because I believe that this in of itself happening to black people who are Hebrews after admitting that was also a form of anti-Semitism. And I believe that's what brothers are saying and saying that, listen, I can't be anti-something I am. I am from Shem. Where's my political protection when you are promoting us in a negative light if you know that there's history of our people being Hebrews? More. Is that in that documentary, Hebrews to Negroes, there's stated facts from universities and studies. Listen.
No, but it has nothing.
I'm saying, but I'm saying, let me say what I have to say, because I'm not saying that all of the history from Hebrew to Negroes is 100% correct. That ain't what I'm saying. But I have enough intelligence to look at it and understand historically what's true and what I can chew the meat and spit out the bones. So that's what intelligent people are able to do without censorship. So by the same token, this is what I'm saying to you. What I just brought forth is some of the history that's in Hebrew to Negroes that probably, not just this, a lot more, that probably resonated with Kyrie Irving and others, more so than how many people died in a war or Holocaust during our modern times. And that's why I'm glad I'm having this conversation with you, because Kyrie Irving had no control over this guy, starting with history of the Holocaust and all that. And I believe a conversation should be had and said, well, Kyrie, is there anything historically that resonated with you that had nothing to do with Jewish people that we can agree on? Is there some value to the black community for the history in this outside of that where we can make a disclaimer then? We can make a disclaimer that, okay, this history right here can be discussed whether or not it was true based on what side you're on. But this information concerning our people, being Hebrews, practicing Israelites, came over as slave ships, might have the value with the understanding for Israelites to come under the law to fix our communities. Like you're saying, we should come under the law. Well, the law will fix the degradation. So I've seen many documentaries. I've seen some documentaries better than others. I've also seen things that Jewish people have put out there, which is strictly misinformation on black people. But you know what? I was able to see it for what it is. Untrue. I didn't get offended because I'm used to it. So we got to have a conversation where, listen, Rabbi, even if I disagree with your view of history, that's okay too. Because if you know your history is right, guess what? You can prove my tropes and my conspiracy theories are lies. But it seems as if the word anti-Semitism is being put out there to stop the conversation from being had. What value, what sense of pride our people can draw from by taking on our Hebrew traditions if we are in fact those people. Right? So now, brothers and sisters, now isn't those honest questions if they really want to come to a equal medium of respect for one another and destroy this line of racism and hatred they claim is happening? Right? This was logical, made common sense, and you know what? It's given our people back the pride that was lost through the curses of Deuteronomy 28. The pride of life of us realizing we're Israelites and that we were born this way. That we were born this way. We were born as Israelites. Whether your false education stuck on us or not, we were born this way. I can't claim I was born an Israelite without someone getting offended. But I tell you what, if I say I was born this way, I'm accepted by the same people who are attacking Kanye and Kyrie. See, we got to get some shirts. I'm an Israelite and I was born this way. Let's get those machines fired up, Amar. I'm an Israelite and I was born this way. It's time for us not to be ashamed anymore of who we are. And don't let them shame us or try to guilt us into identifying with who we are. So,
well, yeah, but it goes back to the main thing. So first of all, Jews are very obsessed with truth, you know? So we're not going to settle for something that has falsehood mixed with truth. We're going to just say, hey, you got to just clean that up. If you think there's something a Jewish person wrote who's a scholar or a rabbi respected where there's untruth, you got to get the guy on your show, you know, ask him these hard questions so he can prove it. There's no problem with accountability in someone's storyline that they're telling. I think it's unfortunate for the time being that this Hebrews to Negroes, which seems tons of amazing information, had to mix in some things that were totally made up in someone's head. What it seems like from our perspective, he wasn't able to prove any of that.
What in particular is made up you're talking about? So that just to give full disclosure to the listeners.
Yeah, well, first of all, the fact that, you know, he goes heavy on the Sephardic presence of true Hebrews in the Iberian Peninsula that ended up coming to Western Africa, but disregarding the Torah and the these communities had published and recorded, contributed at the time. So it's stripping the narrative of the Jewish exile in that region, and then saying that's us and leaving their information, their works, and their contributions behind. And those people taught, you know, even if there was such a thing as conversion, of course, it's according to the law of Moses, fine. So there's no such thing as the original, the truths. This is the Torah, this is the house of Israel, this is the people of Israel. And secondly, the concept of the curses, fitting the curses, it didn't make sense because there's so many.
Well, let me get to the meat of it now, folks. Follow me. Follow me now. Brothers and sisters. But when Hyrcanus heard of the death of Antiochus, Josephus, he presently made an expedition against the cities of Syria, hoping to find them destitute of fighting men and of such as were able to defend them. However, it was not till the 6th month that he took Medeba. and that not without the greatest distress of his army. After this he took Semega and the neighboring places, and besides these, Shechem and Gazim, and the nation of the Kuthians, and dwelt at the temple which resembled the temple which was at Jerusalem, and which Alexander permitted Sambalus, the general of his army, to build there for the sake of Manasseh, who was son-in-law of Jaddua, the high priest. And it says, as we have formerly related, which temple was now deserted 200 years after it was built. Hyrcanus took also Dora and Marissa, cities of Idumea, Edomites here, and subdued the Idumeans and permitted them to stay in the country if they would circumcise their genitals and make use of the laws of the Jews. And they were so desirous of living in the country in their of their forefathers, because Edomites are from the sons of Isaac. Isaac. They are from the sons of Isaac and Abraham. So they were desirous of living in the country of their forefathers, that they submitted to the use of circumcision and of the rest of the Jewish ways of living. At which time, therefore, this befell them, that they were hereafter no other than Jews. So the label Jews came from the conversion of Edomites of Idumea, according to the Josephus history, 2 centuries before Christ was born, which, if you look at the genetic line of the Idumean royalty, out comes the Herodian dynasty of Antipater. Historically, under the Roman Empire, you can find this in the Annals of Rome. Out of Antipater comes Herod the Great, who was responsible for seeking Christ's life, where Joseph and Mary had to flee into Egypt because this Edomite family who converted into Judaism, Edomites now, were now in position to govern those Israelites in Judea. Now, I need y'all to check that out, folks, because even though, and why I highlighted this with Harry, now that I'm looking at it back, I'm glad. This is the first time I looked at it back like this, brothers and sisters. Here's Christ, who was from the physical line of Judah, according to bloodline, when you read in Matthew, the 1st chapter. And then you have the Edomites who converted into Judaism during the time of Hyrcanus in the 2nd century, a record that Harry Rosenberg confirms is literature to be read amongst those who follow Judaism. So you had Edomites who converted into Judaism, who was called Jews after they converted. These were Edomites. And when they finally gained position of authority as governors over Judea, they sought to kill the Israelite who was from the genetic bloodline of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Now, on the surface, on the outside, others would see, well, there's some white people following a religion, but there's some black people who are from the bloodline of Israel following the same religion, right? But really, there's a war that's going on geopolitically where Herod is looking to kill the baby before the prophetic child gives the bloodline people the prophetic, you got it, kingdom that's promised within the Old Testament. So no one points out the racial wars. The racial war between those who converted and those who are from the physical bloodline of Israel. The Christians don't talk about it, and the Jewish people outright, under their religion that I've seen, don't discuss this key point. So even though they both are worshiping as Israel or under Judaism as they claim, why is one family trying to kill the baby? And how do we translate that to what's going on geopolitically in the earth today? More. What say you about this history of this conversion of Edomites converting to Jews? What say you?
Yeah, there's been lots of conversions over time, and there was Midianite conversions, Moabite conversions.
Now you notice he concurs, then moves off of it. No one asked him about Moabite conversions. It wasn't Moabites who was seeking to kill a black child by the name of Christ or the Messiah, Yeshua. You notice he agreed, then moves off of it. Now, if I would have debated each point that he was redirecting conversation, no points would have gotten made. No points would have been made. But I wanted to go back and review this with y'all this evening since he couldn't be on and show you. What he didn't want to talk about was the fact that, according to history, Edomites converted to Judaism gained position under Satan to kill the child. That child was a black child by the name of Christ who's rejected by their religion even until this day. More.
Edom, there was conversions, so there's no issues with that. There were issues with corruption during certain temple period times where the position of the high priest was sold to anyone who maybe not even a priest, maybe not even from the house of Israel. And that's why you have the story of Hanukkah where the Maccabees.
Now, what we need you to do, go back next week and you can find this conversation more, but there's a little bit more I want to pull from this when it comes to Christ. And when I started mentioning Christ, this is where Harry began to, he was seeking to make an exit after that conversation about Christ. I don't know if it made him uncomfortable, but let's see. Famous Jew that have ever graced the earth. Now here it is. Jeremiah 16:19. O Lord, my strength and my fortress and my refuge in the day of affliction. The Gentiles shall come unto thee from the ends of the earth and shall say, surely our fathers have inherited lies, vanity, and things wherein there is no profit. What lies do you think the Gentiles will eventually realize and seek to repent from?
Could be what we're talking about right now. Maybe that they were trying to be, the state of Israel is trying to be a Jewish state, not based on Torah and spirituality, but based on ethnicity. So maybe that's some of the falsehood we're going to have to fight. Okay.
Now, we at 6:47. I only got 13. We're gonna conclude this 3 minutes before 7. Is that good for you?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Christ said that he came for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Not that others will not benefit with the Israelites being a light to the Gentiles. Okay, I think we just lost your video.
No, here, I just had to text the guy that I need 3 more minutes.
Okay, go ahead. Let him know. Yeah. Let him know you have 3 more minutes.
You're saying.
Okay. We don't want you getting up out of here. So, no, 3 more minutes. All right. Christ said he came for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. I have a book by a man so happened to be Jewish by the name of Ronald Sanders, where his original feat was attempting to disprove the North American Indians and others that were found here by by Europe. Okay, I told him that I have a book that was written by a Jewish man by the name of Ronald Sanders, called what? Titled, and you in the academy, you all know we go through this, Lost Tribes in the Promised Land, where when the Jewish people or the European Jews came to America, they started seeing the traditions and culture, the traditions of the ancient Israelites. They found that in the new land. And that also Christopher Columbus used the DILEs. Under his DILEs, wrote that he was able to convince the queen to finance him using scripture, proving that the lost tribes were here in the new land. Second Ezra, the 13th chapter. This is why they took the Apocrypha out of the Bible and don't want us reading it in our communities. The North American Indians, the so-called Latino people who was taken over by Spain and all that, these were in fact from the lost tribes of Israel. The North American Indians, we're celebrating Thanksgiving tomorrow. Well, the world powers are really celebrating what? The conquering of the children of Israel. More. By the conquistadors of Spain, France, England, they wasn't reporting back to their homeland in Europe that they actually found the lost tribes of Israel. But yet there's history proving that there was ancient Phoenician Hebrew in the burial grounds of those Indians and others who were found here in the Americas before white people, including white Jewish people, got here to America. So this is deeper than just black people in slave ships. We're bringing forth the Gathering of Christ Church, teaching the gospel to the 12 tribes of Israel who were scattered. Before white Jewish people came to Americas, the 10 tribes were already here in the Americas. And guess what? I didn't make that up. This guy did the research. Why? He tried to prove the fact that these people weren't Israelites and found that, you know what? That he was lied to also. Ronald Sanders. So when it says lost sheep of the house of Israel, what does that mean to you? Is Christ responsible for gathering those that are lost, the genetic line first?
Yeah, the role of the Messiah is to find and unite the lost tribes of Israel. So in every generation, we have sages who are on this mission looking for them as well. It wouldn't make this Jewish individual.
So he says there were sages that's on a mission for trying to find the lost tribes also. He already said earlier that he knew that that's us. See? So are these the same sages that were seeking the child from birth to kill him? Speaking of Jesus Christ. So folks, you got to really understand how to listen when they're talking. What sages? The same one who said, seek out the child so that Herod can kill the baby? And should we trust those sages?
You're talking about Jesus making him unique to other Jewish rabbis who over the last 2,000 years have written books and have been looking for the lost tribes of Israel as well. Very important mission. We can't get to the redemption until we find them and unite and make world peace together.
He said we can't get to redemption until we find them and unite. Well, if that's the case, why do you have a problem with Kyrie? Why do you have a problem with Kanye? Why do you have a problem with the documentary that's for over 3 hours and only 10 minutes is speaking something that you might disagree with?
That's the problem.
Okay. I find something interesting before we go. Here you go, folks. Is that Christ, I would say, even through infamy on those who believe Judaism, even through infamy, we must agree that Christ is the most famous Jew that have ever graced the earth. I'm talking about from a wide perspective and view from all people, not just Jewish people. That would be the one Jew that's the most famous Jew that have ever graced the earth. Right? I'm just talking about notoriety. Would you say that?
Well, according to Kabbalah,
I'm not talking about Kabbalah. I'm talking about just even through regular people in the earth who didn't know anything about Kabbalah or nothing. If they think of Jew, and say who's the most famous Jew that have ever graced the planet, and ask any random person, they'll say Jesus. Wouldn't you agree to that?
I would have guessed Moses, but maybe you're making a good point. But according to the Kabbalah, what I was saying before is Christianity.
Oh, it's heating up. It's heating up.
Our perspective played a role in taking the light of the redemption into this dark side and debriefing the whole world on the house of David that will eventually have a redeemer come forth. So
I'm saying, but I'm not talking about your view. I'm talking about just a general view. If you was to ask somebody on the corner, regardless of religion, ethnicity, or whatever, and say, well, who's the most famous Jew you think have graced the planet? Even if they don't believe in anything, they would say Jesus.
Yeah, well,
as a consensus, don't you believe that's true?
Let's say that was the case, and I agree with you. I'm not the census master, but if that was what is reality, I would just add to that from our perspective, there's a very deep purpose of why that would be the case.
Okay, well, even though there's a purpose, it's so. So let me ask you this. It seems like that famous Jew, which is the most famous, a matter of fact, it's through him, as an extension of me growing up as Christians, is why I revered and respected the Jews that I didn't know anything about religiously. By proxy, I respected Jews, white Jews, because of Christ. That's my personal observation. Now, it seems like that's the only Jew that can be offended online without anyone labeling people anti-Semite. Why do you think that's so?
The Jews don't really take ownership for him.
Woo! You can offend and say anything you want about the most famous Jew, and not one of them would come and rally to protect this guy who made them famous by proxy. Famous Jew that have ever graced the planet, and ask any random person, they'll say Jesus. Wouldn't you agree to that?
I would have guessed Moses, but maybe you're making a good point. But according to the Kabbalah, what I was saying before, is Christianity, from our perspective, played a role in taking the light of the redemption into this dark side and debriefing the whole world on the house of David that will eventually have a redeemer come forth. So
I'm saying, but I'm not talking about your view. I'm talking about just a general view. If you was to ask somebody on the corner, regardless of religion, ethnicity, or whatever, and say, well, who's the most famous Jew you think have graced the planet? Even if they don't believe in anything, they would say Jesus.
Yeah, well,
as a consensus, don't you believe that's true?
Let's say that was the case, and I agree with you. I'm not the census master, but if that was what is reality, I would just add to that from our perspective, there's a very deep purpose of why that would be the case.
Okay, well, even though there's a purpose, it's so. So let me ask you this. It seems like that famous Jew, which is the most famous, a matter of fact, it's through him, as an extension of me growing up as Christians, is why I revered and respected the Jews that I didn't know anything about religiously. By proxy, I respected Jews, white Jews, because of Christ. That's my personal observation. Now, it seems like that's the only Jew that can be offended online without anyone labeling people anti-Semite. Why do you think that's so?
The Jews don't really take ownership for him. Because so you can say whatever you want about him.
You can say whatever you want about him. Whoa. Lord, if only we just got that little piece, it was worth the interview. I don't know if he'll come back, but the fact that he admitted that before everyone should be an eye-opener. So then why are we ostracizing and raking other people through the coal, having them apologize to a group, when the guy who made you famous in recognition gets no political protection at all from you?
Something we have a personal issue with.
We must. Hold on. In fact, it's through him, as an extension of me growing up as Christians, is why I revered and respected the Jews that I didn't know anything about religiously. By proxy, I respected Jews, white Jews, because of Christ. That's my personal observation. Now, it seems like that's the only Jew that can be offended online without anyone labeling people anti-Semite. Why do you think that's so?
The Jews don't really take ownership for him. Because so you can say whatever you want about him. It's not something we have a personal issue with. we believe we don't declare a human Messiah until he does three things.
Hold up. I'm gonna let you get your point. Christians, I need y'all to hear this. Christians, I need you all to hear this. So they don't care what people say negative about Christ. Okay, he's disowned. You said that, listen, I don't care what people say about him. Isn't that what you just said?
Well, no, we don't say mean things about people, but we're not triggered if someone wants to talk about him. It does nothing.
What I'm saying is, if I say something negative about Jews as a group, I'm labeled anti-Semite. But the most famous Jew that have ever graced the planet, anyone can say something negative about him, even Jewish people, and not be labeled. You don't see anything wrong with that?
Absolutely not. There's every year for the last 2,000 years, there's been Jews whose books have been burned and kicked out of the community for not passing on what everyone heard from their father. So if someone deviated from what everyone heard from their father, it was just expelled from the community. You get kicked out.
So I take it you could care less about Christ.
I mean, I don't care about most things, but I love reality.
Now I'm talking about Christ in particular. You don't really care about him like that, do you?
I don't even know how you're supposed to care about him. He's a historical figure, one out of billions, but it seems that he played a role in disseminating information about the house.
You know what? He couldn't help himself. He couldn't help himself. He couldn't shy away from that opportunity to show his disdain. Even though he knew, believe it or not, he knew how this would affect things for him going forward when it comes to the outside view of him and those who practice that religion. He knew it. I can see, listen, I seen him, I was checking this out and I seen him looking for a way out, but he couldn't help himself. That's how much vitriol. That's how much vitriol they have against this man. And guess what? I can understand why they have so much vitriol for him. It's the same vitriol they have for Kyrie. See? They know that Christ was a black man. And they knew that he was coming to bring forth the truth you're hearing right here. Awakening the valley of the dry bones so that we can stand on our feet and realize at the very end, those dry bones in Ezekiel 37 are the whole house of Israel. This is why they could care less about him. Boy, Christians, I hope y'all seeing this. And folks, I need the brother to call in. A whole church have converted into the knowledge of the truth. And the pastor had 31 pastors in the academy learning so that they can convert their churches, folks, into what we're teaching right here. The truth of who we are as Israel. And not to hate other people, we're going to be a light to the Gentiles, the same way I'm trying to be a light to this guy. Harry Rosenberg is lost right now, but hopefully he can repent and come to the knowledge of the truth. All right.
House of Israel and the gathering in the.
Well, I'm gonna say this. Let me say this. The respect that Christians and myself in particular had for Jews as a group wasn't through our belief in Moses. I'm gonna say that it was because of Christ. Why? Because as Christians, we were told to stay out of the Old Testament. We were told the law is done away with. Don't even go into the old stuff. Moses wasn't even on the map for us in church. It was Christ. It was through Christ we revered the Jewish people. But we thought that what they believed was connected to our Savior. That's what we believed. And then on Christmas, they would show the 10 Commandments, Charleston Heston, and all these others. And by default, through ignorance, we started to believe that that's what Christ looked like. And so we should revere them as God's people in respect of the Christ we serve. Boy, you all gained respect. Listen, you all gained respect as a group through our ignorance and us believing that there was an attachment with you to him. Last question, because I know you have to go, and then we're going to pick up part 2 next week.
I'm looking forward.
You're looking forward to it. So am I. He's looking forward. And once he said that, the chat went crazy. He's not coming back. He's not coming back. Listen, I wanted to give Harry the benefit of the doubt. I'm like, well, listen, the brother's a man of his word. If he said he's coming back, I'll take him at his word. Because why? I wasn't going to bear false witness and all that and put up an evil suspicion and say that, well, okay, he's not. Listen, Torah tell you to be a man of your word. So I trusted he would do so. All right. Next week, we're going to lay out some stuff. It's really going to be good for you. Revelations 2:9, 3:9, where Christ says, I know thy works in blasphemy. Thy works in tribulation, speaking of his people, but thou art rich. And I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews and are not, but are the synagogue of Satan. What is your view on that Bible verse?
I always just, first of all, we don't even hold to the New Testament stuff because we don't trust the authors of it. But secondly, if I would look into that, I would just look at the people who are openly serving Satan today. A lot of satanic worship in American culture goes back to Vatican, Jesuit stuff, and the founding Council of Nicaea. And they say that they're the God-chosen people. This church and the Vatican, they're representing God, that they are now the chosen people.
Oh no, the Vatican is of the devil. Okay, let's make that clear. So we can agree both on that one.
It's not talking about me and my friends studying Torah. It's talking about people actually worshiping Satan at a very dark,
okay,
scary.
Okay. Now, one day we're going to go into a conversation of the gospel concerning those actual people. Let's pick that up next week, part 2, if we may. Okay.
Yes.
Rabbi Rosenberg, thank you for your presence and piecing out some time for us. I'm chopping at the bit. I cannot wait for part 2. What say you? And hopefully we'll have part 2. Elder Lawyer, you there?
Yes, sir.
All right, Elder Lawyer. Okay. Now, I posed a few questions that I wanted you to answer, but what do you think about reviewing that back? I don't know if you heard what I just showed real quick, and I have to give it to the audience. They said emphatically he wouldn't be back this week, and it's our people. They were right on. I really was holding out hope that he would do what he said he would do. But, our people are right up on it. I'll tell you that. They're like, why do you think he didn't come back? Matter of fact, I'm not even going to put that out there. Let's talk about the talking points we had, Elder Lawyer. Go on.
Yes, sir. Well, I think the most telling thing from last week in regards to the conversation of what is anti-Semitism is the fact that you can be labeled as an anti-Semite for saying things hateful against a particular group of people who identify as Semites. But here it is, Christ, in the book of Luke, the 3rd chapter, it tells us that he is a descendant of Shem, which just so happens in the book of Luke, the 3rd chapter, is spelled as Sem, S-E-M. And yet to speak against him is not labeled as offensive, is not labeled as anti-Semitic.
Okay.
And for those of the Christian community who would back this particular community anytime that they levy the accusation of anti-Semitic against someone else, I believe that Christians should ask the question, is it possible for this people who are against Christ, who don't believe in Christ, who are open to attacks to be levied against Christ, who is a Shemite or a Semite, is it possible for them to be anti-Semitic? And I think that's the question that Christians should be asking themselves. Well,
I'll tell you this, Elder Lawyer, because I had a bunch of questions, laid out for him, bullet points. I was going to jump right in with, from where we left off last week. I would have said, well, okay, let's put it this way. We have an Idumean Edomite who's posing because they converted under Hyrcanus. He's under the Jewish religion, Judaism, and seeking to kill this child, Christ. Right? Now, based on your negative view on Christ, would you have been upset? Would you have accepted? Would you have celebrated Christ being killed by this guy? If he doesn't matter.
Right.
Because there's a lot of people who would find offense to that, because we needed that child to live and die for the sins of our nation. So if you don't really care about him, I mean, do you think that, that Edomite who converted into Judaism, do you think he was right going after this child? Because it's one thing to claim that, well, we reject him based on him operating outside of the traditions as he grew up into an adult. It's one thing to say you disagree with his theology that you believe is against Moses with him as an adult. It's another thing to say, I don't care if he'd have been killed as a baby or not. So I'm going to ask that question if he come on, because you can't claim it was Christ's actions to why you rejected him. Based on what he's become, do you think the world would have been better off if Herod would have accomplished killing that baby? See, hey, Lloyd, I roll out these questions, young man. I get them together because I really want to get to the heart of how these people, or how people really feel and think, but won't say publicly. They play on the naivety of Christians who are trusting, without our people really understanding what they really feel about our Savior, and how does that transfer over into society and how they view us who believe in Christ. So now we're getting to the bottom of things. If we have those conversations, if you feel this way about Christ, then doesn't that transfer to those who believe in him? And if so, should we trust you?
Right.
Now there's some there's some other things I wanted to talk about, was the destructive ideology that we must get in front of. That continues, that actually continue racial divides and racism on either side. Like they want to get in front of the ideologies, Elder Lawyer, of Israelites converting other people, because they think they claim it's hateful rhetoric, and it comes from a radical ideology that could start spreading amongst our people. While on the other hand, having the conversation as a Hebrew or an Israelite, that's who I am, why don't we look into the rhetoric or destructive ideology that could or could not, or probably taught within the religion in of itself, that we should look at and say, you know what? If you believe this according to your religion outright, you should denounce it publicly. Because if your children believe something racial, that's racial hatred within your ideology, that transfer into the real world on how they treat or look at our people. Right? So I wanted to go into some of the ideology that's within that religion.
Right.
Right? Because why? Because maybe that ideology transferred to creating hateful people who would publicly do something like this. This is the guy used to be Kramer from Seinfeld.
It is no laughing matter for actor Michael Richards. While performing at the Laugh Factory last weekend, the comedian made racial comments. TMZ.com caught Richards' Friday night show on tape. Mind you, the language may be disturbing.
Shut up! 50 years ago you had you upside down with a fork up your ass!
Fair use.
You can talk, you're brave now, but rolls ass out, he's a nigger! He's a nigger!
Fair use.
Oh my God.
A nigger! Look, there's a nigger! Ooh. All right, you see? It shocks you to see what's buried beneath.
Now, folks, Elder Lawyer. See, really, what I'm seeing here is someone who's been radicalized through some negative ideology he could have learned growing up. Right? So no one wants to you just want to isolate him as an individual who's racist without going into the environment who created such a racist. Right? So it's the same way they want to examine Israelites and how that could that ideology could be destructive for them. Right? We have to look at the ideology that made a guy like that who can publicly just outright spew racial hatred publicly. And guess what? I've never seen no long list of him having to donate $500,000 to the black organizations or come to see the slave museums of black people, right? To make amends. There was no bucket list or bullet points he would have to endure to be accepted again. Okay. I didn't see no long list of donating the stuff they telling Kyrie to do. And Kyrie didn't do anything like this. He just posted a tweet. So here it is. Folks, we have to go with, this is what I want to ask the rabbi. Could it be he was radicalized as he was growing up based on some of the ideology that I've ran into when reading the Talmud? Okay. Suppose I'm a child and a rabbi is going in the Talmud and it's telling me as a child that I'm a special people and I'm viewing the Gentiles differently, including black people. How does that transfer into the real world? Well, I think that was an example of it. That if you really want, and his name was Michael Richards, if you really want world peace and us, working together to stomp out evil together, regardless of race or religion or ideology, we need to start with, that's right, what's radicalizing the negative on either side? And why is there a double standard? Because this guy can do all of this. There's no question of how he feels about our people, folks. He didn't just tweet, he just didn't tweet a movie concerning degradation against black people or whatever the case is, or something he didn't just tweet a movie that would have us, upset. So we need to get to the religious radicalizations that might be within that religion. We need to have a conversation of what you believe that pumps out Kramers, Michael Richards, and get in front of it. Get in front of it and say, you know what? There's some stuff in our religion that probably worked back then, but now we have to publicly denounce those pieces of literature that we grew up learning from. And publicly do it to show in good faith that you're willing to stomp out racism and anti-Semitism, right? I want to pull that out there real quick, Elder Lawyer. Do you have anything to say on that?
Yes, I would like to add as well. Again, it's like it's almost in tandem with what we see with other communities, and I think you kind of touched lightly on the other community that you can't speak of earlier.
Yeah.
And highlighting the sons of both Magic Johnson and Dwayne Wade. And another question we must ask is this: if the Bible says that the Most High concluded all under sin, both Jew and Gentile, irregardless of who you believe the Jews are or who the Gentiles are,
yeah,
the Bible says that all are under sin. Is it possible for these people, because again, we often hear about crimes and we hear about attacks that are levied against this particular community? Is it possible, as you've just showed in that video, for that community to levy attacks against others?
Exactly.
And are the people who are victims of the attacks that come from this community, because again, we are all capable of sin. We're all capable of lying, stealing, murder, thievery, or what have you.
Yeah.
So when someone calls it out and says that, well, this person did this and it just so happens that they are of this ethnicity, are we anti-Semitic for pointing that out?
Yeah. And not only that, let's get to the bottom of it now. Let's get to the bottom of it. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but at least have the conversation. It seems like the conversation is only one way. Get in line. You people are believing something that's incorrect. It's racist. It's hateful. And all these name calling and labels that's directed one way. As if hatred or racism cannot exist within any group, within any race of people. So I'm talking about, listen, I was honest when I said, and outright, let's have an honest conversation. Because now I got the proof to say that, listen, not only are we not racist like that when it comes to believing we're Israel, we don't have the power. We don't have the fiducial power or the physical power to enact any evil on another people. But we can't say the same about other races of people. So if you have some destructive ideology that's against us, not only is that hateful in of itself, you have the power, finances, and wherewithal to execute your hatred against us. And this is why the conversation must be had. What is it that they believe where people like Imus, a white man, can get on television, major network television, and call our sisters nappy-headed hoes without having no bucket list? They don't have to pay the black people. They have to do anything. And you can't say this is a one-off because we have him. We have others. We have Kramer. We have Al Jolson back when TV was black and white doing blackface outright in public. And if you're doing this in public, what are you saying in private? And who taught you that coming up as children? Could it be an inherent part of what you believe when it comes to your view of black people? Is it part of the religion? Those questions must be answered. And if so, we must discuss it. Because we can't have you be the beacon of morality using your media to point out what's racially radical, or not racially, but what religious fanaticism looks like. What religious radicalism looks like. We cannot have you being the moral compass pointing to what religious radicalization looks like if it's ingrained within your religion. So I'm not saying it is, but I'm saying, shouldn't that conversation be had? Because I've ran into some stuff. I've read the Talmud. I read other information and say, no children should be learning this. Some of this information, because they will have an skewed view on how they interact with black people. So the conversation must be had. Not to accuse, but to put down any divisive or evil racial views against another race of people, if that's truly what they want. All right? So I'm like, for instance, this is Forbes magazine 2013. Elder Lawyer. And then I'll open up the calls. And a lot of people, guess what? This stuff was pushed under the rug. Forbes magazine 2013. Now, this is Forbes magazine. An article by the contributor Elise Knudsen. Now, Elise Knudsen, I looked her up. Okay, let me pull her up here so that y'all can't think that, folks, we do our research here, okay? We do our research here, okay? Let me get it here. Our research is done. Hold on, let me get it here. Hold on. Let me get it here. Elise Knudsen, Forbes magazine. That's her right there. Forbes woman. So this is nothing personal. This is nothing racial or against any other people. This is a Jewish woman. Okay. And she says she graduated college with a degree in religion and a minor in African studies. Okay. And a minor in African studies. This is her article. Forbes woman. Israel forcibly injected African immigrants with birth control, reports claims. This weekend, a report revealing that African women immigrating to Israel were subjected to mandatory contraceptive injections, effectively amounting to forced, if temporarily, sterilization, made global headlines. Now, every time you hear of Israel or black people being Israel, they would bring up Ethiopians. Some 130,000 Ethiopians, most of them Jewish, live in Israel. The community experiences higher poverty and unemployment rates than the rest of the country's Jewish population. And in the past decade, the birth rate among Ethiopian Israelis has declined by at least 20%. Advocacy groups now claim this decline is the result of a birth control regimen forced upon Ethiopian immigrant women. According to the article in Haaretz, an Israeli news source, one Ethiopian immigrant said that the doctors who injected her claimed that the people who frequently give birth suffer. While it is possible, if highly unlikely, that doctors genuinely had the woman's health in mind when they forcibly injected them with contraceptives, there is no excuse for depriving women sovereignty over their own reproductive choices. Forbes magazine. Now, this goes on and on, and it talks about Germans and all that up in here, right? By the Germans and what happened and all that. Hey, folks, I think that we need to talk about, another example of a Nuremberg trial, but internationally for our people. Now, the question remains, Elder Lawyer, because it says allegedly, not allegedly, because it's in the report, that they were forcibly sterilizing black women who knew they were Israel. Now, my question here, Elder Lawyer, and I need you to, this is more so what I'm saying here. Hold on. 1 second here. 1 second. Let me see it. 1 second. This is more so, Elder Lawyer. Check 1, 2. This is more so rhetorical, or you can answer the question.
Mm-hmm.
Suppose one of those black women, let's go back, if we can, a few thousand years, if we may. Suppose this was Mary. Mary living in Jerusalem before the birth of Christ. No one wants to talk about this. And this is what I'm going to bring it around full circle. Herod the Great, if he had the technology or the finances to fund the medical system we have today, would he not have used that on Mary to stop the birth of Christ?
Mm.
So now this have me looking at this Roe versus Wade, this all of it from an entirely different light right now when I see Planned Parenthood disproportionately, represented in our neighborhoods. Okay. Oh, maybe we have some guests. Let's see. Hold on. Oh, let me check. Oh, no, not yet. But Elder Lawyer, I'm just putting out some food for thought for people. Herod was an Edomian. He was an Edomite, where his foreparents converted into Judaism in the 2nd century before Christ was born. He was part of that Edomian family that became Antipater. Antipater ended up linking in with the Roman Empire and placed Edomites in position over the Sanhedrin and a political position to be in place as Edomites to kill the chosen child of prophecy, a black child by the name of Christ. If this doesn't resonate, folks, and I'll tell you what, with you, if this not connecting the dots for you, guess what? You are lost. We thought it was just some Jews or whatever the case is during the time of Christ against him. We didn't know about the Edomites who converted and put themselves in a political position to kill the baby. Christians need to talk about this. We need to look back at history and understand that as much as things change, they stay the same. All right, Elder Lawyer, anything you want to say before we open up the line? Oh, I had a few things, Elder Lawyer. I had the Philo report, and I had a few questions. But I'm going to hold these because I'm going to hold Harry to his word and see if we can have him on next week. I'm going to hold him to his word and see what happens, all right? Because hopefully the brothers are, and hopefully nothing happened to him. And I'm going to leave the door open. But anything you want to say before I open up the lines, Elder Lawyer?
Yes, sir. Just two quick things. How is this any different than what was committed against the said people who are implicated in the article as performing these forced sterilizations? How is this any different than the atrocity that they went through? An atrocity so great that they said that it should never happen again, and that they should be protected at all costs from this happening again. Within that atrocity, there was extermination as well as sterilization and things of that nature, various experiments. So how is this any different? And secondly, are these immigrants who just so happen to identify as Jews and are recognized, not only do they identify as Jews, they're recognized as Jews by the state of Israel.
Yeah.
Are they protected under I guess you would say protection?
No, you can say it. Because every time we talk about black Israelites or black Jews, it's not us. They bring up Ethiopians. They bring up Moses' Ethiopian wife. Well, if that's the case, these are Ethiopians here that are recognized under the religion of Judaism and are recognized as black Jews in Israel. Well, is it now? Not once in this Forbes article, Elder Lawyer, did we see the word anti-Semitism as a word to politically protect these black people. Right. So we need to talk about these double standards here. At the least, it's a double standard. Right. I'm not saying that they can't use a label to protect themselves, being a minority or one of the smallest groups in any country, or whatever the case is. That's their choice. But why can't these black sisters here, who are also identifying as Israelites, whom they recognize as Israel, why can't these black people be protected under the label of anti-Semitism? Right. Or is there a definition that's maybe there's a silent definition that if they said what it really meant, it would actually expose everything. Right. There must be another definition, because blacks cannot be protected under this label. And if not, why? Let's have the conversation. Because these are people who are recognized in Israel and they're recognized as Israel by the Israelis, by the state of Israel. But yet they can't get that same protection. And if not, why? Anything else, Elder Lawyer, before I pull in the line?
No, sir. Let's open up the calls.
Okay, we're going to open up the calls. There's two things I put out there. Did you write it down, Elder Lawyer? The 2 points?
I didn't write it down. When it comes to me, I'll mention those 2 points.
Okay. All right. Well, don't worry about it. We're here. It's open here. Israelites are under the spotlight. It started way back before 2020, before the lights went out and before the cold started infecting everyone. The conversation on everyone's tongue out there was Israel, Israel, Israel. Black people are waking up and understanding that they're not Hamites, that the Christian church lied to them. We're not from the curses of Ham like the satanic Mormon religion is teaching, and also the Jehovah's Witnesses is teaching that garbage. We're not Gentiles. We're from the lost tribes of Israel according to bloodline. Okay. Oh, yeah. The one thing I I did put out, Elder Lawyer, as a question is, now that the cat can no longer be put back in the bag, can't put a lid on this, what is the established corporation's next move?
Yes.
I'll put that out there. What is their next move? Because why? Are they going to make it a fireable offense? If black people in sports and entertainment stake claim to be an Israelite? Will they make that a fireable offense? Will they now take away what people have and fire them if the knowledge of our people being Jews or Israelites is discussed publicly amongst their teammates or amongst those on the job? And if so, isn't that a double standard? Because Chinese people don't have to renounce their ethnicity in the workplace. They can say, well, I'm Chinese. They don't have to worry about a reprimand staking claim to their nationality. And all I can see is what? Lawsuits out of the wazoo. I'm going to tell you folks, there's many lawyers. I don't care who they are. Get your legal teams ready and make it public record. It's time to sue out the wazoo. If the corporations begin to infringe on our religious right to exist. Because I see this is a dark path they're going down right now, Elder Lawyer. And what I'm seeing here, they got to make a move to slow this up. So are they talking behind closed doors and making it what? A fireable offense? If black people start staking claim, and Latinos and also North American Indians and all those who have been conquered by Rome, if we start claiming we're Israel publicly in the locker rooms or in our workplace, will that be deemed a fireable offense? I think that's where they're going, folks, to try to claim, because they're going to try to connect everything to that tweet and say, nah, you believe everything that documentarian put together, that documentarian put together. And by default, when you claim you're Israel, this is what you believe concerning our genocide. I'm looking how the media is tying everything again to that one thing. And guess what? I knew I was Israel well before that documentary. As far as I know, Dalton, he came in 2011 or 2. Him learning from teachers like myself and others is probably what spurred him or influenced him to go into the research. So I didn't need a documentary to know that I was an Israelite. But they're going to try to hook everything into that documentary and say, if they believe they're Israel, this is what they believe concerning us. They're going to try to shoehorn it and make that the talking point, the corporate talking point, to take away our freedom to exist as Israel. I really think that's where it's going, Elder Lawyer.
Yes, definitely. And I think because there's really no, I guess you would say, violent extremism that takes place. So what they try to do is they try to tie in little pieces over decades, long time, to try to tie in this idea that Israelites are violent extremists. So they'll go back to Yahweh ben Yahweh and some of the things that he did. And they'll go back to maybe the event that took place a few years ago, 2019, the shooting in, what was it, a deli or something to that effect, a grocery store within a Jewish community. They'll tie that in and try to make it seem that you identifying yourself as an Israelite means that you are in association with these different events or these beliefs or ideologies that may have taken place over decades. And these are just a handful of events just to show that really there is no violent extremism that's being done, but this is the way that they are presenting this within their documentation to make it seem as if somehow, some way, someone believing that they are a Jew, a black person thinking they're a Jew, it must mean that they seek some type of violence or some type of extremism against other people, which we know is not the case. But I can definitely see that being the case going forward.
And I'm going to tell you this, Elder Lawyer. Outright. I'm going to tell you this, man. Number one, being an Israelite isn't a monolith. That's number one. There's nobody who know they're Israel with any ilk or any understanding within, with any level of understanding. Know any of these people they talking about, they're reporting about concerning radicalization or some type of attacks on other people. Okay. Now, the media might try to cobble together some stories to indirectly connect them to Israelites, but it's only to fool the ignorant people who don't have enough, enough patience and time to really see outside of the controlled corporate media. Okay? The reality is there is no tie between some radicalization out there in Israelites. It doesn't exist. Now, who knows? Could it be created?
Right.
I don't know. But you notice, because if they could tie some of what's going on out there to a group specifically, they would have done it already. Okay? So, hey, I'm just looking out to see what the media says again. I'm looking for another closed event that indirectly through some tweet or something will connect Israelite ideology that led to somebody getting mugged out. Who knows? But I'm going to tell you. Let me tell the lawyer. They use one mugging of an Asian guy so that Biden can pass a law for Asian hate, as if black people was running around manhandling Asian people on a regular. So it doesn't take much. It won't take much. It's just how they present the story and play it over and over again like it's happening on every corner on earth right now, right? So it doesn't take much. So I'm looking for them to cobble together another story or whatever the case is, and only so that the corporations can pick it up and say, well, listen, this is what we have to put in place in the workplace going forward concerning this radical belief, right? Chinese people can be Chinese people at work, okay? Arabs can be Arabs at work. And even Jewish people, they can be Jews at work. But I'm an Israelite and I can't be an Israelite at work or in the workplace. What's wrong with that picture? But this is where it's going. And brothers and sisters, like I told you when the cough came, y'all should have stood on your laurels like Kyrie did. And if they violate your rights, get a lawyer and sue them. Straight up. But I digress. Again, let's talk about the Hebrew Bible Academy, Elder Lawyer. We have a new one coming up December 4th. You better get in. Survive in the Wilderness. I'm going to go into the truth concerning Ruth's ethnicity and to show you some of what we were fighting on the outside of the construct of Egypt in the wilderness on our way to the homeland. Why? Folks, there's a lot of stuff out there they're not telling us about. And when the cities break down, what's in those mountains going to come loose, and we're going to deal with the reality of what really exists on this earth. The demonic creatures and all that. They're trying to show it in movies and all that to get us acclimated to what's really out there. And I'm talking, folks, do you know mermaids is in the Bible? Do you know Nephilim is in the Bible? Giants. And guess what? When the founding fathers came to this country, so-called founding fathers, which were Satanists from the Hellfire Club, like Benjamin Franklin, George Washington, folks, they were in concert with beings who helped construct America. And guess what? These beings still exist. And guess what? They have a name. They have a name according to the biblical identification of them. And I'll be talking about that in Survive in the Wilderness, folks. When the cities break down, all of what's out in these countries are going to come into full view. We are not alone, folks. That and more. Who's a Jew? You got a black person claiming to be a Jew, and you got a white person saying that he's a Jew too. Let's put out the paperwork. Let's get the literature involved. Let's get the university papers and the history along with the Bible to make sense of all of this. Okay. And also, we're going to go into healing according to God. Should we protect our children from birth? Is there anything we need to protect our children from, like when Moses had to be put on a moat into Egypt to escape being harmed from birth? Christ was warned by the angel, well, his father and mothers were warned by the angels to go into Egypt because the Edomite, the Idumean, Herod, he would be a European today, he wanted to kill the child, which was a black baby, from birth. So there's something that we need to look at now concerning how to protect our children who are coming up with sicknesses and all types of mental illnesses. Is there something we can do to get in front of it before the devil gets to them, like they tried to get to Moses and like they attempted to get to Christ? That and more. We're going to have herbologists. We're going to have, that's right, we're going to have experts on this academy. And now that you've helped me out with a new computer, live Zoom questions at 2:30 after the academy is done, no later than 2:30. Live Zoom questions where our loyal participants of the Hebrew Bible Academy can now come in and speak to us and ask questions concerning the lesson in case there was some information you didn't understand. For the first time, because of all of your support, we brought this academy to the next level, and it couldn't have happened without you. All right, so let me put that out there. HistoryTimes.org. Folks, over 31 pastors were in the academy learning. We have a brother who converted his whole church, and they are now a part of the Gathering of Christ Church in the Carolinas. It's happening, folks. The Great Awakening isn't upon us.
It's South Georgia.
South Georgia, Elder Lawyer. Where is it at again?
South Georgia.
Yes, South Georgia.
Douglas, Georgia.
Douglas, Georgia. A whole church had been turned over that once was a black church. No longer deal with paganism and all of that. They deal directly with the truth that's being taught through this church, real time. He had 31 pastors who was in the academy quietly getting the information so that we could get the Babylonian toxins out of their minds. It's happening, folks. And folks, I'm not just talking about black Christians. I'm talking about even white Christians are coming to the knowledge of us being Israel and understanding what? That there's a gospel to the Jews and also to the Gentiles, that now that the Israelites are here to be a light to them, through Christ. Okay? That's right. I want to put it out there. All Israelites it doesn't hate other races of people. That's ridiculous for someone to even think such. Okay? That's another lie out there. Automatically they try to discredit, they're the guys, and try to tie up, they're the guys that be on Times Square cursing people out and all that. Liar, liar, pants on fire. All Israelites don't believe that. It's dismissive and disrespectful for you to put us all in one bubble. Okay? And it's disingenuous and it's straight lazy not to ask, is there differences? Are there differences? It's straight lazy. Okay, so we're not going for it anymore. We have Gentiles who are converted. Gentiles are going into the water, changing their lives, understanding the truth concerning our people being Israel. And you know what? They have no problem about it. But I'm sure there's some people out there who does. All right. Elder Lawyer, hold right. We're going to open up the lines in 1 second. And that's right. Hebrew and Bible Academy. Hope to see you. December 4th. Enrollments are open now. We have the administration on standby. Go to historytimes.org. I want to see you there in a couple of weeks. Hold tight and we'll be right back with the phone calls.
The Bible. Is it hard to understand?
when it comes to reading the Bible, the first thing that comes to mind is the fact that this is the Word of God.
The seals have been broken, and the truth is here.
And when we go throughout the scriptures, when we go throughout extra biblical records, we find that the language that God employed, that He used to create the heavens and the earth, was the Hebrew language.
Christ said, I came for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. But yet no one, no religious leader, no religious church out there anywhere can now identify the 12 tribes of Israel. Can we? God is quite simple, but it seems as if man makes understanding Him hard.
What are those mysteries?
The truth of your book and the truth will make you free. The Hebrew and Bible Academy, you're invited.
You are invited, and brothers and sisters, I'll tell you, there's nothing like the Hebrew and Bible Academy on earth. We guarantee it. The Bible is easy to understand once you know the people and its true narrative. Hey, and we've caught them. I'm speaking of the children of the devil, red-handed. All right, historytimes.org. See you in a couple of weeks. Let's now open up the lines. And yes, what do you think the next moves are by the enemy? Okay. First of all, they're disingenuous in of itself, using yellow journalism to actually identify what an Israelite is as a form of control. All right. I wouldn't suggest anyone ascribe to the Southern Poverty Law Center as anything reparable concerning what an Israelite is. Okay. Because you do the research on them and those, you know, in particular, who have put that particular thing together so that now, quote unquote, independent news circulations can pivot to them, okay, for information concerning Israelites. I'm like, are you kidding me? They're not reparable, and they're not doing anything for any poverty. It's just yellow journalism so that they can label and demonize someone, and that now a separate entity can now source them or cite them as experts. Nah. If you want to know what an Israelite is according to the Bible, speak to the people, not those who are against the awakening. All right. All right. Great broadcast. Great broadcast. A lot of information. Let's call in. I have Elder Ramar on the line. Elder Ramar about to come in. If you want to say something, Elder Ramar, before we bring in the guests, let me know.
Blog Talk Radio. Welcome to Blog Talk Radio. Please hold and you will be able to listen to the show.
All right. Let me pull it up. 515-605-9327. I'm unmuted now. Okay, Elder Ramar, if you'd like to say something before we begin, you can come on in. It's up to you. I'll tell you what, it's a good time to be an Israelite. I'll tell you that. Praise the Most High.
I'm just listening, Elder.
Okay, good. All right, let me go down the line. Let me open it up. Thank you, Ramar. 302 area code 302. And the brothers from New York, if y'all want to call in, come on in, because we have the church from New York. So if you're from New York, the bishop, the deacons, come on in. Tell us what the environment is over in New York with Kyrie or whatever the case might be. 302 area code. And if one thing this have done that I thank the Most High for, it doesn't matter what faction of belief you may have when it comes to an Israelite. It doesn't matter if you are an Israelite or a Christian. It doesn't matter if you don't believe anything at all. For once in our existence in this country, as Israelites, we all came to a consensus that how they're treating Kyrie and Kanye is wrong. That's a sign for them in of itself, that we're not throwing our own people under the bus like we used to, and this is why they're panicking. I need y'all to think about this. Nothing could bring us together really, because there's different doctrines and factions and all that, but right is right, is wrong. And it's one thing all Israelites have in common that's true that we all believe in. That the only fix for our community is the law our people walked away from. And that's really at the end of the day, it's about self-preservation at this point. And we all agree that we as a people should come back to the laws, statutes, and commandments of God. Okay. So we all agree there. So we see a brother being attacked for no reason at all, but just exercising his freedoms without saying anything. The Most High had it where we would all rally. We would all rally with a unified voice to stand for what's right. So the Most High is doing something. Who knows? This could be a common thread that begin to pull us together and say, listen, regardless of our differences, what can we put in place to help our children and our community going forward? 302 area code.
Shalom, Elder.
Hey, Sam. Yeah, I can't hear you. Well, your voice is a little scratchy. The floor is yours.
Yeah, I wanted to comment. It's unconstitutional for them to fire me from saying I'm an Israelite anyway. You got to get in them pockets. That's how you do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I want to know if you've seen this video of this. I don't know if this brother's an Israelite, but he had a post on Simeon Toko. And this is something that the United Nations was trying to cover up.
Okay, so what is it? What is it in particular? What is it? The details.
Well, they tried to kill this man. They tried to kill this man several times, and it didn't work.
For what?
And
Why?
he warned them that because he was preaching to these people, and he told them there's many more coming. And there were scriptures. I didn't get the scriptures, but he has a couple scriptures that he brings out about Christ talking about the end times and what will happen.
Okay, well, send me the link and I'll look into that, okay?
All right. A gathering, was it a gathering?
Gathering as one, the number one at AOL.com, okay?
Okay.
Thank you, my brother. All right, thank you.
Shalom.
All right, Shalom. Going to the next call. I got to get through the calls. 347 area code. What do you think they're going to do next? 347. Israelites under the spotlight.
Hello. Shalom, Elder. I'm going to try to make this quick. I just had a couple of comments, and I have one question.
Yeah.
Well, let me get to the question first. In my Bible study, we have a Staten Island Bible study weekly here, and I asked the leader about when he was talking about, some of the prophecies, and that, there would be no need for the sun or the moon. And I asked him, then how would we know? We don't know day or night. How would we know when the Sabbath came? And he said, well, we would be an eternal Sabbath for that 1,000 years. That's our Sabbath. Like God had this Sabbath for 1,000 years after He made the earth. But my question is, if we are in eternal Sabbath, how will the Gentiles serve us if you're not supposed to have your animals or your maid servants or manservants working on the Sabbath?
Who told you about some eternal Sabbath?
Well, the Bible study leader, the leader of our Bible study for Staten Island Bible Study that we have weekly, because when I asked him how would we know when the Sabbath came?
Okay, hold up. Are you talking about within our church?
Yes, he is a member of our church.
Okay, well that has to be corrected because there's no there's no eternal Sabbath. Okay, what there is time is being kept in heaven right now where there's no night. When it talks about rest, it's talking about what? It's talking about the 1,000 years resting.
Right.
Which is the 7,000 year now that creation had to start again from the time of Adam's death. So there is no eternal Sabbath. Time is still being kept. Okay?
Okay.
Time is being kept in heaven right now. When it says, listen, when it says,
no sun or moon.
Exactly, but who set up the sun and moon from the beginning to keep time?
Christ, after his father's direction.
Yeah. Okay, don't forget, time was being had before the sun and the moon.
Okay.
Don't forget, in the beginning, when the light came, and when it says there was the face of the deep, right?
Right.
And he divided the night from day, and it says that even in the morning was the first day. That was time was being kept before the sun and moon. So no. Yeah. So probably a conversation you had amongst them. Some people probably didn't know what the answer, so they gave you an answer. But no, there's no eternal Sabbath. The Sabbath is a full time. You have to do us a favor when y'all call in. Please go into a quiet environment. It's bad for radio. All right. There is no eternal Sabbath. There's 1,000 years rest, but time is still being kept. All right. All right. Next call, 704.
Shalom and Barakatah, elders.
Hanak, how are you?
To all the elders.
Shalom. Floor is yours.
Shalom. This is Brother Hanak from the Carolina Bodies. First and foremost, I thank you for coming down to visit us this past Sabbath. It was great to see you guys down here. My comment was that it's interesting that, when you brought up how they don't defend Christ, there's a particular faction, I'm speaking of Jews, there's a particular faction of Jews who call themselves Messianic Jews, that even when people speak blasphemy against the Savior, they're quiet as well. So I thought I wanted to bring that out to see what you thought about that. And also, there's a particular comedian, a female comedian by the name of Sarah Silverman. And a few years ago, she did a blackface rendition on Comedy Central, and there was no outcry, there was no outrage, there was no laundry list of apologies for her to, do the same. There was no fiery hoops for her to jump through the same way they're taking our brothers through as of now. And her career probably flatlined, but it kind of seemed like it swept under the rug, just like, the incident, the video you played earlier with Kramer, calling a brother a nigger and all of that. Whenever they do anything against us, there is no anti-hate movement for our people on our people's behalf. But as soon as we proclaim that we're Israelites, they feel threatened, as if there's going to be violence and the city's going to be burnt down and all of these things that's going to happen to them. The same way when we talk about slavery and things like that, white people start talking about, what is it that they say that we teaching in the schools about slavery being bad and all of these things. So it's a paradigm shift. I believe that, they know the prophecies because they knew we were Israel coming off of the slave ships. They know that the Most High told our father Abraham that the nation that he will bring us out of, he would judge. So they see the handwriting on the wall, and they're just trying to buy more time for themselves by trying to keep the awakening quiet. I appreciate your time. Shalom and Barakatah.
Shalom. I want to say something in particular, which is quite interesting. You brought up Messianic Jews. And let me tell you, that's a very, very, very destructive ideology that has crept its way up within Christian circles. Very, very destructive ideology. And I'm going to tell you why. If there's no difference as you're teaching in Christianity between Jew and Greeks, why is it now you must make a distinction? Why not just be Christians and join Christian churches? Why, if you believe that you're a Christian, why do you have to divide yourself under Messianic Jews? That's destructive. Because why? Automatically coming in the door, there's a level of authority that comes with that title compared to other Christians. But if you're going to say there's no Jew or Greek and all that, no, you have to take away that label Messianic Jews and to come in as Christians. That's how destructive it is. Because it still deals with the premise of one people being Israelites without highlighting the people of Deuteronomy who are suffering the curses. So that's a very destructive religion on the surface. It seems like from Christian standpoint, oh yeah, we got some people who are now converted and now they believe in Christ. Well, shouldn't they be learning from you? Shouldn't they be under you? So don't go for that con game. Don't go for that con game. Then it's another way of bringing in an ideology that would do what? That would be really a political construct to keep the Christians in order concerning the geopolitical structure that was put in place to highlight a specific people as the chosen. So that's a very destructive ideology. If you're a Masonic Jew, you shouldn't say Masonic Jews. Just be a Christian and join a church then. So we're not dealing with that either. Thank you. All right. Thank you, my brother.
All praise to. How are you?
All right.
Yes, sir.
Shalom.
Bless you, brother.
All right.
Shalom.
Shalom. Johan has a question.
Shalom, Elder. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Yourself?
Oh, praises to the Most High, Father. Question is, when they, the other nations know that we are from the tribe of Israel, and they change these name games, like our big uncle Esau always tries to get in, he always gets in political position to come against us.
Well, ain't no uncle. Esau is our brother. But go on.
Okay. Okay. So when our brother Esau gets in political position,
yeah, and
he always set his people in front of us to catch us up in captivity. Oh man, where I'm going with this? They always change our names or they always point us as the enemy and do the captivity to every nation that holds us.
Yeah, I guess what you're trying to express or draw, what you're trying to just bring to light here. What comes to mind here is the fact that you're saying when Esau come in position, it's his position to disconnect us from our heritage and our name Israel.
Right.
Yeah, and that's why that's right. You're right. That's why it says in Deuteronomy 28 that we would be a byword, right? Instead of us being called the children of Israel, we'll go by bywords, labels that they've placed on us. So yes, that's another way of keeping our people under systematic servitude. It doesn't matter what religion you're following. Okay? If you don't know who you are, you're still being controlled by the same oppressor. So it doesn't matter. They don't care if you're a Christian because they set up the boundaries of Christianity to keep us as slaves, believing that we're from the cursed seed of Canaan, who when you go into the Old Testament, it tells us Canaan is a servant of servant. That means we were born and our children are born to serve them if you believe that ideology. So they don't care if you are a Christian. They don't care if you are a Muslim, right? But when you take on Israel, when we take on the name Israel now, see, they understand that the curses in Deuteronomy 28 is coming off of us. That's one area they have no control over. That's God giving us our name back. God gave Jacob the name Israel. Okay, so the whole thing is that's when they become nervous and that's when they begin to panic because it's one religion they'll claim that that really they have no power to steer it geopolitically, religiously, or otherwise. And it's the only belief that have us now look at ourselves and say, okay, we're Israel. Well, now that opens up a whole new can of worms. If I'm Israel, then who are these people? And see, and that's the question they don't want to deal with. They'd rather keep everything within the box of World War II and the parameters and scope of that, so that we don't look anywhere outside of that area, because that's an area that can actually put us on the defense. And be like, so the whole thing is, the conversation should be had. Are we the children of Israel? And if so, what does that mean prophetically concerning us? And it does matter. Why? Because Christ said he came for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Is Christ coming to save us out of this captivity throughout the earth, like he saved us out of Egypt by choosing Moses? That's the conversation they don't want to have. See? Because why? If they can come under the political guise of victim, automatically, even if they are politically the aggressors, there's what? Political protection to stop others, to stop us from actually protecting ourselves from them. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. They're making it what I'm saying is they're making it so that if they put us on the defense, then automatically we're not in a posture to protect ourselves and actually fend off their aggressive ideology that they've learned privately about us or against us. So the whole deal, right. So what I'm saying is, right, Israel is the only understanding that can break us free from our captive ideology. And it comes with us taking on the name that was given us, the people of promise, wholesale as a people. And guess what? Even their community shows us what happens when they're on code under one name, one ideology, and one understanding for their people. Black isn't going to do it. Because with the name Black, there's no moral code that comes with that. Now I got to take in also Black activists who are against our people because, wow, they're immoral, they're evil. We have to take in the con men and all that, and the evildoers from the conscious community, and we can't hold them accountable because there's no law to be in the conscious community. All right, we have to take in the Christians who may be doing stuff that's wrong strictly because why? Because they're Black or Christian, but there's no value system with the laws of God in which we can be in agreement on. So the only key thing that brings us on one accord, and I can see that with Kyrie and Kanye right now, is us actually staking claim to the law and applying it to protect our children going forward. Thank you, brother. All right.
No problem. Thank you, Elder.
A great point. And you can jump in anytime you would like, Elder Lawyer. 415 going down the line. Priscilla has a comment and a question.
Shalom, Elder. How you doing?
I'm blessed by the best, and his name is Ahoya. Talk to me.
All praises. Just first a comment, then a quick question. My comment is, it's just, all I can say is just all praise to the Most High for just seeing the constant conversation of Israel, people, friends, family. I've been in the truth for 8 years now, and, a lot of people was shunning the conversation or didn't want to talk about it, but now people are calling me, texting me, asking me questions, and, I even sent one of my friends an invitation to the body out in Pennsylvania, so it's just super exciting to see the Most High waking everybody up and just bringing the truth to light. It's just, what a time to be living in. And then my question is, because my dad's a pastor, so throughout these years, we, from time to time have conversations about, the truth and our differences and what we believe in. And most recently, of course, bringing up the Israel thing and who is Israel, Is there a lesson that you have, or any quick comments you could say towards? I really just want, it would help, to me, it would help the Christians to really get an understanding of the doctrine that they learn in the church concerning who Jewish people are. So, like, for example, when I talk to my dad, the things that he brings up to try to prove that the Jewish people over there in Israel is the real Jewish people,
Okay.
he talks about, like, the temple being built and how, when Christ is supposed to return, or when he returns, he's supposed to be at the temple, and the so-called Antichrist is supposed to be at the temple. So the fact that they're trying to build the temple is supposed to prove them being the real people. Or the other point of, when they went over into Israel during World War II, somehow, the Christians see it as some type of miraculous situation. How, like my dad always says, how is it that they, the smallest amount of people in the whole world, and they were able to miraculously turn themselves into a state? I don't know if you're familiar with these things, but it's a whole doctrine that they've been taught that, makes them believe with certain scriptures that they use to, that makes them believe that those people are the real Jews. So I hope that, like I said, I don't know if you have a lesson already, or if possible one day you can kind of dig into what they believe from a Christian doctrine perspective, what they've told us about themselves.
Okay, I'm gonna show you the talking points. I'm gonna put it on the screen because don't forget, before the 1930s and 1940s, there was no such theology taught amongst black people in our Christian churches concerning any of that. Not in the 1800s, none of that. So there's a doctrine that came through this guy right here on the screen. Let's see. Let me reload it. It popped out. Hold on. Man, as soon as I popped up, it went away. Let me get it again. Hold on. I'm going to put it on the screen right here. Here it is. This son of Satan right here, by the name of John Hagee. Okay? This guy popped up with an ideology for restoration and started touting this as some theology that should be recognized amongst Christians. And our people began to take this on and add it to a theology within our churches. And it had nothing to do with what we believed before World War I or World War II. It was indoctrination. Number one, sister, let's make it clear, okay? Because I'm not going to argue every point when it comes to your father. But what I would ask him is, so you do believe that Israel as a people has a prophetic claim to the land of Israel, right? And if he answer yes, and be like, well, okay, let's talk about it then. Let's talk about that. And now you begin to do what? You begin to open up the understanding of history concerning who the bloodline Israelites are and were. And you have to actually show a Christian. Now, this is the part that Christians will get. Okay? The Christians get this. If you believe in Christ, isn't it supposed to be Christ restoring Israel back as a nation? If you believe in Christ as a Christian, isn't that Christ's job to establish Israel again, the country of Israel? And you ask him that. And if he say yes, then ask him, well, where's Christ at? So how did Christ restore Israel? The same Christ you believe in. How did Christ restore Israel when Christ haven't returned yet? And then you ask him when it comes to false ideology about a temple being built. Sister, there's nothing in the scriptures that say a temple is going to be built before Christ's return. That doesn't exist. That was something that was created by the Jesuits when they created this 500-page commentary in the late 1500s of the new prophetic bullet points that will be taught in Christianity going forward concerning Christ's coming. And they added the rapture, the Antichrist, a temple being born, the Christians making a pact with the Jews. All of that was created by Jesuits under the Catholic Church. So what I would tell your father, because he's just deeply engulfed in the programming, is to first understand that if he's going to believe that those people or any people were to be restored back to Israel, you have to bring the conversation. Isn't that a conflict of prophecy concerning the Christ you claim to serve? Christ is supposed to restore Israel. Right? And then you have to go into it and show, where does it say in the Bible that the world body, the UN, would establish Israel at the very end as a people? Knowing that this world is controlled under Satan. Okay, where is it in the Bible does it say that the UN in Europe would come up with an agreement, the Balfour Agreement, that will restore God's people? So he's just confused. He have to be taught again. But the best place out is too many places because there's so many different lessons. The rapture deception is one of those that we have out there. You need to look at that. From Babylon, Rome to America, another lesson. You need to see that. But I'm gonna tell you the lesson that will really resonate and shake him out of his sleep. The 12 lost tribes of Israel found on our page. Ask him to look at that. Okay? Look at that. Unfortunate for him, there will be no rapture. There will be no one Antichrist because Antichrist is already, there's many Antichrists. And last but not least, let me read this out of the book of Isaiah for you. Out of the book of Isaiah. Right now, over in the Middle East, there's wars, right?
Right.
We heard about that, the Palestinian-Israeli war and all that. It's happening there. But let me pull up the Bible real quick and read this. Let me read this. One second. Okay, let me pull up Eastward here. One second. I'm going to read this for you real quick, sister.
Okay.
And it's unfortunate because the same people that's in charge of over the Christian church isn't being ran by Christians anymore. The same people who are responsible for controlling the political environment and everything we see on the earth, okay, is really controlling the theology of the Christian church. Okay? Let me read this in Isaiah for you real quick, sis. In the book of Isaiah. And I need your father to understand this. How old is your father?
71.
71. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's going to be tough. But there's nothing impossible with the Most High. Let me get it real quick. Let me grab it here. Let me read this in Isaiah 2 because they're saying that what we witnessed after World War II is the restoration of Israel. I'm not even going to argue that point. I'm going to read the prophecy according to the restoration according to the Bible. Isaiah 2:1 reads, and I'm going to put it up here so that all my brothers and sisters can witness this at the same time. This is out of the Bible for Christians because Christians don't read the Bible. That's the problem. Right? Isaiah 2:1. The word that Isaiah the son of Amos saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem. And it shall come to pass in the last days that the mountain of the Lord's house shall be established in the top of the mountains. So they're saying this is what happened after World War II. and shall be exalted above the hills, and all nations shall flow into it. And many people shall go and say, Come ye, and let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the God of Jacob, and he will teach us of his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For out of Zion shall go forth the law and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. And he shall judge amongst the nations, and shall rebuke many people, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war any more. So it's clear that if that was the restoration, the Middle East wouldn't be at war right now.
Right.
Right now, there's Middle Eastern conflicts, Palestinian, Israel, and all that. So how is that a fulfillment of the restoration when they're still warring right now? Okay?
True.
Now, what your father is experiencing, he don't realize that. What's going on in the Middle East is what Christ says, Israel being scattered, Luke 21 and 24 on down, which says, will go into captivity, scattered throughout all nations until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. So what happened when the land became desolate, Gentiles took the land. So it's our brother Esau fulfilling his portion as a Gentile to get in the land before the very end, before the coming of Christ. Believing that the land belongs to him. Why? Because Jacob have the blessing and the birthright. So Esau was born first. Right. He's just a Gentile going into the land, fulfilling his part of prophecy as a Gentile. Okay, and that's what that is. Your father is confused, and he's confused because the Gentiles have come in and circumvented the ministries of the church so that they can believe what's going on in the Middle East is prophetic. Okay? Got it?
All praises. Thank you so much, Elder.
All right. Bless you, and just pray for your father. Just pray for him. He'll come around. All right?
Okay. Likewise.
Thank you. All right. See, that's how you do it. You go into the Bible and say, oh, listen, if it like my man Johnny said, Johnny Cochran, if it don't fit, you must acquit. All right, what's the next one? Ray has a question. If it doesn't fit, you must acquit. All right, Ray, you have a question?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. And Ron Dalton, if you're listening to this, if you want to come on, if you come on, I'll put you in the front of the queue. Ron, if you're listening to this, if you want to come in, I'll put you in the front of the queue so you can talk about a little bit of your documentary, okay? All right, Ray has a question. Come on, let's do it.
Well, there's a pleasure to talk to you. If Kyrie Irving has to apologize for posting a link, shouldn't the Jews have to apologize to black people for what they say about us in that? What's the one book they have, the Talmud? I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right.
Oh, you saying you're talking about the Talmud? See, but
yes.
See, but it's hard. Like on the surface, you would expect that, but you can't make any generalities like that. Generalities like that. Excuse me, without being deemed or labeled, anti something. So really, it comes down to not them as a whole, but the rabbis who respect the Talmud should come forward and say there's some racist stuff that we need to apologize about that's in it. Okay.
Yes, sir.
I wouldn't put that on every person, or like I wouldn't expect them. I don't think they would expect us to speak for all of our people. But I believe rabbis in particular, who uphold the Talmud as a record that should be respected amongst their sages and all, I believe they owe us an apology. At the least come forward and say there is some negative views of black people in our records, and we're willing to be honest about it, and that we do apologize because we had no position in writing it. But today we renounce it and apologize to black people and others for this destructive ideology within the Talmud. I don't expect all Jewish people to do that, but at least the rabbis should do it. Yeah.
Okay. Elder, where does that book come from? Is that something that they made up, or is that a historical book or document, or whatever you want to call it?
Well, there's many stories of it, right, on it. And I'd rather have the rabbi come on and you can ask him, but really on the surface, the story they'll have us accept, the easily digested story on the Talmud that they would actually generally tell us, if you go online or whatever, would say, well, there was just some rabbis, just writing what they call oral writings on the law that was passed down through Moses and kept in the Babylonian Talmud. But the reality is, that's right, Moses wasn't no Babylonian. Okay, that's number one. Yes. We have to ask, why is it that the monks and their holidays, right, are actually titled under what? Under Babylonian deities' names like Tammuz and others. So there's a lot of stuff that goes into that has nothing to do with the Torah in general. But they didn't. But listen, but they expected us to stay religiously lazy and not look into what they believe, because I believe some of what they believe even subconsciously translate into how they treat others on the outside of the religion. And how could it not? How could it not? I'm talking about, if they do believe what's in the Talmud, everything concerning how we're being treated in this earth when it comes to these conflicts makes sense now. So I didn't look into the Talmud and others to accuse them. I did it more so to understand what they think when it comes to their religious studies. And now that makes sense to me on how, now you can understand how people can see themselves as a chosen people, different from others. Not that they disrespect or hate others, but they prefer their own above all other people. And you know what? God said that there's nothing wrong with that. And it's time. It's time that we get on board with that understanding. That, listen, I agree. It's not that I hate anybody else, but I prefer my people first. So, and there's nothing wrong with that. We're the only people that don't understand, that wholesale and the protection that comes with that. But hey, we're getting there. What else you have there?
That's it, Elder. Thank you for your info. I've learned a lot listening to you, and may the Most High God continue to bless you and your ministry.
It's the Most High's. It's Christ's ministry.
Have a good night, sir.
Well, bless you, brother. Shalom.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Let me make it clear. This is Christ's ministry. I'm a servant. All right. Let's go to the next one. We have Eunice. Eunice has a comment. 267. Look, it looks like that's a Philadelphia number. Shalom. All right, Eunice, I'll get back with you. Joseph has a question. Shalom. Yawasab. Joseph.
Hey, shalom.
The floor is yours.
Shalom, Elder.
Shalom, sir.
My name is Joseph. And I just got a question for you. I just want to find out, which tribe do they say Mary came out of? The betrothed husband of Joseph.
Okay, that's a good question.
Which tribe do you teach? I must say.
Okay.
Maxine.
Okay. Mary came from Judah, and that's as far as we know. Mary came from Judah. Okay, and that's the father's side.
The tribe of Judah.
That's the father's side. But on the mother's side, Levi, and it's obvious because she's the cousin of Elizabeth, the Levite.
Okay. So okay. So that's what you say. She's from David. Then you're saying.
Absolutely.
Yeah, she's from David.
Absolutely.
Okay. One more question. I'm asking. In St. Matthew 1, he tells you, and they begot. But when it comes to Christ, he doesn't say begot. He say husband of Mary. Why does he doesn't say begot when it comes to Christ? All the others he say begot.
Listen,
I just
brother.
want to know why.
Hey, let me tell you, brother. See, some people might think that some of these phone calls that I have with brothers and sisters who call in, some people may think that these are seeded calls, that we have planted calls that would call in. Brother, I'm going to tell you this. This is the Spirit of the Most High, because out of nowhere, I'm going to show you on the screen what I had up that I was going to go into in the academy. What do we have? What do we have here? We have the original translation of the book of Matthew by the Syriac Sinaitic, the Syriac Sinaiticus.
Yeah.
And this was the original translation before even King James translation. Let me show you something. I'm going to show you something here.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
No.
The reason why I asked you that is because it's
brother, listen.
Yeah.
I'm just do me a favor, just fall back just a little bit here, because I'm gonna open it up for you, and it's gonna answer the majority of your questions strictly from what I have here. All right, because I'm teaching at the same time here. What do we have here? We have here the Syriac of the Sinaitic palimpsest of the four Gospels, the translation. Now, as you can see, this was the original book of Matthew that was found. Right? Now, let me show you.
Yeah.
Let me show you real quick what's here. Let me show you what's here in the book of Matthew, the first chapter. See, we're tearing down all the lies. All the lies. Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I say something quick? The reason why I asked these questions because all the Israelites teach that Christ had a father, so that's what's confusing. That's why I want you to clarify that for me.
Listen. I'm not listening.
Yeah, the earthly father.
I'm trying to clarify it, but you got to be patient enough to let me go through this. Right? Because I know where your confusion is coming from, because I was confused just like you. Right? So I'm here. I'm not talking about what the other Israelites believe in. That's not the conversation. I'm here to show you something. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, here's the original Greek before King James Version. As you can see, the book of the generations of Jesus Christ right here on your screen. Look at your screen.
Yeah.
And it goes all the way down. Okay, just stick with me. It goes all the way down. And as you can see, there goes Solomon. There goes David right there. And there goes Solomon right there. Right? And it goes all the way down. And here's the generations of Abraham, the 17th verse, and David. And the 14th generations from David until the captivity of Babylon, on and on and on, until the Christ are 14 generations. Now check this out. 18th verse. And the birth of the Christ. Oh, matter of fact, let's go here. As you can see, Joseph, to whom betrothed Mary the Virgin, begat Jesus, who is called the Christ. So in the original Greek, begat is there. That's number one. In the original
Joseph begot.
Listen, yes, in the original translation before King James, and I just show you the record that it was the original Greek, the Syriac Sinaitic, begat was in the original translation. Now, not just that. Stick with me. Because I got to listen. Just listen and learn. And the birth of Christ was on this wise when Mary, his mother, was espoused to Joseph. When they had not come near one to another, she was found with child of the Holy Spirit. Then Joseph, her husband, because he was just, did not wish to expose Mary. Okay. And he thought to these things, the angel of the Lord appeared to him in a vision and said to him, Joseph, son of David, fear not to take Mary thy wife, for that which is begotten from her is of the Holy Spirit, and she shall bear thee a son. Joseph, Mary will bear you a son, and thou shalt call his name Jesus, or, Yeshua or Yeshua, for he shall save his people from their sins. Now this which had happened was that it might be fulfilled, which was spoken of the Lord Isaiah, the prophet, and said, behold, a virgin shall be with child, and shall bring forth a son, and they shall call his name Emmanuel, which being interpreted is God with us. When Joseph arose from his sleep, he did as the angel of the Lord had commanded him, and took his wife, and she bore to him a son, and he called his name Jesus. And you notice it stops right there at the 25th verse. And then it goes into the second chapter when Herod is seeking to kill the baby. So the verse that says he knew her not until after Christ was born wasn't in the original translation. Now, there's more. I have the Eusebius behind me as we speak. Let me see where my Eusebius is at here. I got a bunch of books. 1 second. Just stick right there.
So you're teaching that Christ born of a sin nature then? That will be Christ born of a sin nature, sir.
Hold on. I got the Eusebius. I had the headphones off. I have the Eusebius here, and I'm going to be going into that in the academy. And in the Eusebius, it breaks down the witnesses that were there at Christ's birth. I mean, as far as the argument of his genealogy, there's no discrepancy between Luke and Matthew. The discrepancy is actually totally understood in the Eusebius when they were putting together the genealogies of Christ. Neither of the genealogies belong to Mary. Luke's genealogy is Joseph's as well as Matthew's. So I know this conflict with your programming right now, but only thing I can tell you, get in the academy, and when I go through the Eusebius and the understanding of the arguments that was being had at Christ's birth, it will all come clear. Okay. Number one, so I can say this before I go. There is no nation can be defined without a seed from the Father. Okay. So that's all I can say right now. You can have the last word, and then I can have to go to the next call. But it's deep that you brought this out, having no idea that I had this Syriac Synaptic ready to show people tonight concerning us going into the religions that was going on. There were virgin religions going on secretly and publicly amongst the politics of Rome, as well as the Sunday worship that was set up under the Roman temples of Bacchus during the time Christ was born. So, brother, we've been lied. We guess what? Everything we've learned is a lie. Everything. And it's going to conflict with your programming. All I'm going to say is be patient with us. Let us go through the literature, and let us go through the New Testament and sort it out with you so you can understand. This has nothing to do with Israelites. This argument didn't start in our present time. This argument was way back when in Rome, after the birth of Christ and the death of Christ. This conversation was being had, and the disciples straightened that whole conversation out. You're in the right place, young man. So let me go to the next call. And hey, we got the stuff, but we got the sources. So just stick with us, be patient with us, and understand what we're saying isn't an Israelite idea. Okay? We've been lied to, brother. The whole world is worshiping Semiramis and her virgin son Tammuz, thinking it's Jesus Christ. But get in the academy, go to historytimes.org. If you let us know if you want to get in, come on in and we'll take it from there, all right?
Yeah, okay. So if you teach that, then that means Christ born of a sin nature. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
And Christ didn't have a sin nature.
Okay. See,
bye.
See, this is what they
when
do.
you get a chance,
Hey,
could you-
brother,
if possible,
you
could call me
listen,
privately.
what you're not going to do is overtalk me. That's what you're not going to do. Now, if you want to have a respectful conversation, I'll let you in. But you're not going to overtalk me. We're men here. So I'm going to let you back in. Or you can try to have your point and just run off somewhere. But you're not going to overtalk me. Okay, so I'm going to let you back in, sir. So are you going to be respectful now that I let you back in?
Yeah.
Okay. No.
What I'm saying,
okay.
based on
No.
what,
No. Based on nothing. You're going to listen. You're going to listen, brother. And we're going to have a conversation where we're not over talking each other. And I'm going to speak first. That's what you're going to do. So we're going to try it once more. And if you can't do that, go ahead and go on. Okay. Are you ready to listen?
Yes, sir. Go ahead and say what you got to say, sir.
Okay. All right. Do you have a Bible in front of you?
Yeah.
Okay, grab your Bible.
It's right here. It be before me.
Okay, that's all. All right.
Mm-hmm. Do I say something? No.
No, you're gonna say. I'm gonna let you know when. Because you said that if we're claiming this, or if we're stating this, or asserting this, then that means Christ came through sin. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, well, keep it there. Let your yea be yea and your nay be nay. Okay, go to Romans, the 8th chapter.
Yeah, I got you. If you could read it for me, I'll listen to you.
No. Get a Bible.
I got it. Yeah, okay, I'll go. Romans. Okay. Yeah, I got it. Romans 8.
Okay. Start at the first verse.
There is therefore no condemnation to them which are in Christ Jesus. That's it?
No, keep on going. You're going to read all the way down through the third verse.
Whom walk not after the flesh, but after the Spirit. For the law of the Spirit of life in Christ Jesus had made me free from the law of sin and death. For when the law could not do for what the law could not do, in that it was weak through the flesh, God sending his own son in likeness of sinful flesh.
Stop.
Yeah, likeness. He said likeness.
Okay.
But not.
Okay. Listen, it ain't say not. Don't be
It
injecting.
looks like, but it's not.
Listen. Don't be injecting words here, or I'm gonna put you on timeout again. Read. It says right here. For what the law could not do, in that was weak through the flesh, God sent his own Son in the likeness of sinful flesh.
In the likeness, yes.
Okay, all right.
I hear that.
So Christ came in the likeness of sinful flesh. I don't say that he couldn't come through sinful flesh when the Bible says that's how he came. Okay. Now I need you to hold. I know this is the first time you're hearing some truth here. I need you to go to the book of Hebrews real quick.
Hebrews what?
The second chapter.
Hebrews second chapter. Yeah.
Okay. Now, since you're at Hebrews 2, I need you to read Hebrews 2 and 14. I need you to read that.
For as much then as the children are part of are partakers of the flesh and blood, he also himself likewise took part of the same, that through death he might destroy him that had the power of death. That is the
devil.
Next
verse.
I got that. Yeah, the devil. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'll read the next verse. Okay. Where is I?
Get it together.
Where is it again? Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. I got that. The devil. And deliver them whom through fear of death were all their lifetime subject to bondage. That's it.
No, keep on going.
Oh. We gotta keep on going.
Because it's talking about how Christ came. Go on.
Yeah. Yeah. For verily he took not on him the nature of angels.
Hold up. Stop.
Yeah.
The nature of angels. What angels? Genesis 6, when it says the sons of God came and dealt with the daughters of men and saw that they were fair and brought forth Nephilim. He didn't take on a physical woman with a celestial being. Read.
Right.
But he took on what?
But he took on himself the seed. The seed is the seed
of who?
Of Abraham.
Okay, stop.
Abraham.
Stop. Now we're going to deal with the seed of Abraham here. On your screen, I'm going to Hebrews 2, right? And it says, took on the seed of Abraham. So we're going to the Greek right here, and we're going to look up seed for you. Right? Took on the seed of Abraham. Okay, let me widen this up for you so you can see it. All right. The seed of Abraham. Right? So I have eastward up here for you, young man. Right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull it up so you can see it. The Bible. Right here in the Greek. In the Greek here, it says the seed, Greek 4690, young man. And then when you look down here, seed, sown, that is seed, including male sperm. Now, do you think Mary can produce male sperm like it says here in the Greek?
No. No, maybe
Oh,
because
okay.
Mary came,
No,
came from
listen,
a seed. That's why.
brother, listen.
I mean, you asked me, I'm answering you.
Hey, brother, listen. I just asked you a question. Can Mary produce sperm?
No, but her father can.
But her father can. All right, thank you. What was Mary's father's name?
I can't remember.
Okay.
I know it's in the Bible, but right off the back, I can't say.
No, see, no.
I'm sorry.
No, you don't have to apologize. Continue to learn historytimes.org, okay? All right, there you go. All right, that takes take care of that one. Okay, yeah. This argument didn't start in our current times, folks. I have the proof through the Eusebius that the disciples knew exactly who Christ's mother and father was. Christ cannot be from the royal line of David if he didn't come through the bloodline. And if he didn't come through the bloodline through the Father, there is no Savior. And that doesn't discount Mary's position as being the blessed above all women. All right. Folks, I had no idea why I had that Syriac Sinatic up. Elder Lawyer.
Yes, sir.
Lawyer, tell you. Lawyer, before the broadcast, all right, did not I ask you real quick, give me the title of that book so that I can make sure I have it? The Syriac Sinatic?
Yes, sir.
Now you understand why the Most High had me think about that, and this topic had nothing to do with it. We're trying to get people out of their Babylonian bubble and break them from what? The Babylonian control that the Satanic Catholic Church has on our people. All right, thank you, Elder Lloyd. Let me go to these calls. We're going to break down early tonight. And if you want the information, I got the information, everything you need to know concerning this argument. And when they began to switch that virgin thing and put it out there, not telling people that there's a such thing as women who's had intercourse with a man and still is deemed labeled maiden or virgin. But they won't teach you that in the modern day pagan Christian church. Christ is the Savior. Whether you want to believe he came either way, you must believe on him, and through his blood we are all saved. Okay? So let's not make it clear, but don't come and say, well, that means he came through sin. And then read the scripture that says he came through sinful flesh and then try to backtrack. He had to come through the temptation in sinful flesh to overcome what? The sin that came through Adam. So he had to overcome that. The blood of sin that came through Adam had to be destroyed on the crucifix to save the nation. So he had to come through sinful flesh. So you give them that chapter, and next thing you know, they go blank. Oh, well, that disrupts my programming. It does. You've been lied to. He came through sinful flesh to destroy the sin that came through Adam. And you cannot get that if it's just a woman by herself, because what? It cuts off the bloodline of sin that came through Adam. Lord have mercy. It's like on that movie, They Live, where Roddy Rod Piper had to body slam a brother to put on the glasses to see. Tammy has a question, 615 area code.
Hello, Elder. How are you?
Bless you. I'm blessed by the best.
Hello.
I'm blessed by the best, and his name is Ahia. Talk to me.
Okay, I have a question about the holy days versus the pagan days.
Yeah.
I'm trying to understand. I believe it. I have the calendar, but as far as how to actually practice them correctly.
Yeah.
How do I carry myself, and then where I can learn the path from beginning to end, so I can teach my children's children.
Well, usually the best thing to do is break down each holy day. Leviticus 23, also in Maccabees, where it goes into what they would call the Feast of Dedication. And also you break them down. We have it all there on your calendar there and on the website, historytimes.org. Go to holidays and click on that. And as well as Purim, the giving of gifts, when the Most High saved us from an Edomite by the name of Haman the Agagite, who was seeking to number us through a census, only to pay mercenaries to kill us off eventually. Well, the sister Esther ended up saving us by marrying the king and getting Haman and his men and his sons' head put on stakes. So now, that's where the giving of gifts come. So that's not really what you would call a Sabbath, more so than in a memorial throughout generations, so that we can remember our God saving us, from the conspiracies of Esau. So that's the day, Purim, we use that day like pagans would have Christmas. But that's usually in February, the real 12th month. All right? Around February, the real 12th month is when we have our giving of gifts for our children. So the best way to transition out of paganism is to let your children know you still get the gifts. If you want to wrap them, do whatever you want to do with them. But the fat Satan clause doesn't exist, and we're not going to deal with that. And we're going to go into the book of Esther to show our children why they must honor not Christmas, but Purim for gift giving. So now it comes with a traditional story that we can now give our children. Well, this was the time our God saved us from this Edomite who was conspiring to kill us. All right. And then we began to give gifts for 2 days. See? So 2 days. So instead of Easter now, be like Christ didn't rise on no Easter. That's Esther, the goddess, the virgin mother of Tammuz. Okay. Nimrod incarnate is who the pagans are worshiping right now, calling it Christ and Mary. That's what this guy that was on the other line is still dealing with in his mind and don't realize it. Right? So instead of Easter, we do Passover. Passover, you go to Leviticus 23, you throw out anything that any bread or cookies that have leaven in it, and you eat flat bread for a week, remembering that when we left Egypt in haste, we left without leaven. And then we celebrate the unleavened by treating each other how Christ said we should one another in this earth. And remember Christ's death and the fact that he became unleavened for us. So we celebrate and look at our exodus out of Egypt, and we also read Christ's Last Supper, which was the Passover feast that he had with our disciples before he shed his blood for our sins. So we don't deal with Easter, which is pagan, satanic. We deal with Passover that time. Now, what the church has done, the Gathering of Christ Church, go to gatheringofchristchurch.org. We made it so easy for you to look at those days, what they're about, and how to deal with those days. Okay?
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. Welcome to the family. Shalom. All right. All right. Breaking down. Only a few more calls before we conclude here. Lyra has a comment. Shalom.
Hello, Elder. Shalom.
Bless you.
Thank you. Okay, I do have a couple of comments. First of all, about the Jewish people, aren't they from like the Caucasus Mountains and the Ashkenazi? I mean, are those? That's not Israeli, is it?
Well, see, I think this is why I wanted the rabbi on, so he can explain and agree upon or disagree with some of the history that I brought forth. See, it's not that simple just looking at Ashkenazi, because like he mentioned last week, the Rabbi Harry eloquently mentioned last week, and I showed it on the video today, that there were many conversions of white people into what we call Judaism today. All right? You had a few. You had one that happened. The major one that happened was around 2nd century before Christ, when the Idumeans converted into Judaism. That was the big one. That was the big one.
Mm-hmm.
And then we would have what? Onkelos and others who were white European Romans converting into Christianity. Okay? And begin to call themselves Jewish. And that's after the death of Christ. And then we would have what we would call the Khazarians, which was really the last big conversion between the 8th and 11th century AD, when the Muslims was fighting on one side and you had the Christians fighting on the other side, and you had the Khazarians, who were Edomites, right, converted to Judaism for political reasons, knowing that the Abrahamic belief was rooted in both of the religions that they were being pressed upon from. So this was more a political move so that they can sustain themselves being a small group politically. And that was between the 8th and 11th century. And those are some of what we call Ashkenazi today. But there's a piece in the Jewish Encyclopedia. Now, there's a piece in the Jewish Encyclopedia that gives context to who we call Ashkenazi, or the convert of the Khazarian Empire. The fact that in the 2nd century, the 2nd century AD, the Basilians of Rome came in to Khazaria, right? So these so-called Khazarians, these so-called Khazarians that converted came in from Rome initially as Basilians.
Mm-hmm.
So there go your Rome. This is in the Jewish Encyclopedia. So this is your Roman Khazarian connection. It was more about politics and gaining what? Gaining numbers who would convert into Judaism so that they can have a people big enough and grand enough in number to one day inhabit Jerusalem in number. This is why it doesn't matter whether or not someone is just a regular old white person and convert. They're accepted because it emboldens the number of the population for that particular group. Right? So all in all, it's more so political as far as population numbers than more so religious. You have a lot of people. You have a lot of people who are deemed that, who are outright atheistic and don't believe anything. But it's the fact that they have the numbers. And this is what they had to create these groundswell in numbers from one generation to the next until we would get to the numbers we see today. So there was many conversions, but no one has really isolated and showed, well, hold up. These weren't Ashkenazis. These were Basilians who came in from the Roman Catholic Church and end up staking power, getting power through the Roman Catholic Church, and to set up the capital of Khazaria that would one day become what we would call the conversion of Khazaria, or Jewish people that came out of Khazaria. Okay, so there's many conversions, and I'll be talking about that in the academy. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
I noticed though, as an argument today, because there's so much pushback from them, with high profile blacks, saying things, and they're calling it anti-Semitic.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's not our place to do, but I'm thinking this is, a pushback. This is something that we could use, or that we could say as a pushback, like, when they say we're not the real Jews, I mean, you know, if
well,
you
hold
got to
up.
look at it like that.
But you have to realize they've never stated that.
Of course not. Of course not. And we won't.
But I'm fair across the board, right? They have never stated that, but they have never they have never argued with the history that's in place theologically and otherwise that would state we're someone else, and they don't feel it's their job to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but they've never stated. Let me tell you, I've never seen them wholesale outright Jewish people and others say that blacks aren't the Israelites. I've never witnessed that. It's through
they're not saying
but
that
it's through the false history. Now, some people may argue that maybe some have gotten into our educational system to redirect us or over theology, and just by just let me put it this way: just by our optics, we were led to believe that they were the people. We seen a white Christ.
Yes, we were.
We looked at the movies, 10 Commandments and others, The Passion of the Christ, and we just believed what they were showing us. Right? They never told us that, okay, this is what the real people look like, but there was nothing else we can conclude. Right?
Yeah.
So I like to be fair across the board, because I've spoken to many rabbis, and again, when I speak to them, they say, well, we know. We know that there's black Israelites. We know that there's some connection here. We know that the Indians that was over here. We know about that, but they don't feel it's their position to publicly state that. I mean, why dilute their political pool?
For them, though?
Huh?
Where's the history that tells? Their true heritage and where they came from?
Well, see. Again, by default, they don't have to give you a history. Listen, they don't have to, because by default, we believe that the history we read in the Bible are them. They don't have to.
Yeah. Right. That's right. I mean,
they don't have to.
History is there too. Hasn't this rabbi ever seen, the original carvings and paintings of Hebrew slaves in Egypt?
Of course.
Haven't they seen any of that?
Sister,
haven't they seen the pyramids where the noses are cut off?
Of course, sister. And I understand what you're saying, but they don't feel that any of that, what you're talking about or what we're talking about, they're not responsible for publicizing that. There's no way them bringing that up gives them any level of preeminence or political protection. And also on top of that, they would promote that. Then it would bring into question. Their prophetic right to Israel. So it's not politically So it's not politically it's not politically advantageous for them to bring forth any of that. That's not their position. Guess what? Well, listen to me clearly. I don't expect them to. That's not their job. It's our job as teachers to bring forth the truth. So I tell you what. Don't hold your breath. Waiting for them to agree with what we all see, on the walls in Egypt. Okay. So
exactly.
All right.
Exactly.
Okay.
I mean, and real quick, one more little thing.
Yeah.
Are they still waiting on the Messiah?
What?
Are they still waiting for the Messiah?
Well, they claim they're waiting on a Messiah, right? But still, I'm leaving that open for when Harry comes on.
Yeah.
Because I need to know.
Can't wait
listen,
till he come back.
he need to come, because he need to tell me, if he don't believe in Christ, under the laws that we read of Moses, what sacrifices have him and others who believe that religion been doing to cover their sins. They're gonna need to. We're gonna go into the law, and he's gonna show me, because even though they don't believe in Christ, and it's disrespectful, why? Because they're living under the grace that was afforded them through him. Because if you're not sacrificing, right? Who's covering your sin?
Right.
Christ is, but you still don't believe in him. So they're waiting on this Messiah to come, and let me tell you, there's so much confusion concerning this Messiah that isn't written of nowhere in the Bible, mind you. And if so, we challenge anyone from the Jewish faith to come on and show us a Messiah from the Old Testament. Okay. We challenge you, and we'll double down and prove to you that every scripture you pull out in the Old Testament is speaking of Christ. If you are an Israelite who believe that Christ isn't the Savior and that another prophet, a Messiah is going to come, and you're waiting for a Messiah like the Jewish people are, bring it. We're open for it. Thank you, sister.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Can you mention something about Dave Chappelle from the other night? Because I've watched the excerpt of the part they picked out. Too much talk.
Well, I'm saying, just type in SNL Dave Chappelle and see the whole monologue. It was one for the ages, to say the least.
I liked it.
Oh, it was wonderful.
I didn't see nothing wrong with it.
Well, I didn't see nothing wrong with it.
All right. I'm from the Florida body.
All right. Bless you, sister.
Thank you.
All right.
Shalom.
Shalom. Bless you, Sister Lyra from the Florida body. Last but not least, Charles has a comment. Last call for this evening.
Yeah, Shalom, Elder Ricard. I just want, Elder, can you bring up that study you did about how the moon is the female and the sun is the masculine, and how the portals move and all that? Can you do that lesson again?
You mean in the academy?
I'm not a part of the academy. I can't. I mean, I'm kind of broke around here.
Okay.
But
well, listen.
I remember you doing the. Oh, my bad. I'm sorry.
Listen, just send an email. Let us know what's going on with you. Keep in mind, it's a 3-month program. That believe it or not, 3 months program, and it's equivalent to, if you divide the numbers there, it's 30 cents a day.
Oh, that's all? Okay.
For 3 months, if you count 3 months, 30 cents a day, every day, that's the amount for the Hebrew Bible Academy for 3 months. So I'm sure you can find 30 cents, right?
Yeah, I could do that. I can scrape that out.
That's all it is. It's 30 cents a day if you divide it out for 3 months. All right?
All right.
So go to historytimes.org and enroll. It's only 30 cents a day when you do the division, when you divide it. All right?
Shalom. All right, shalom.
All right, bless you. And I will do the lesson. When I go into the wilderness, survive in the wilderness, I will go into portals also. With that, shalom, Elder Lawyer. Thank you for your presence and backing us up this evening. We're at the top of the hour, 10 o'clock. May the Most High be with you. I want to see you all in the Hebrew Bible Academy December 4th. And yes, we're the children of Israel in the name of Christ. And we are back. Yeah, Israelites under the spotlight. I wonder what the devil will do next. Shalom, Elder Lawyer.
Yes, sir. Shalom.
Shalom. Good night. Have a good evening. And keep in mind, the Most High is calling back Israel. I love you, my brothers and sisters. Stay strong in the spirit. Keep God's law in the spirit of Christ. And as much life within you, be at peace with all men. We wrestle not with flesh and blood. It's not about attacking someone according to their race. That's juvenile. That's immature. We must grow to the next level as ambassadors for Christ and be a light to the world, including the Gentiles. You're all accepted, but you better get it right. We the Israelites, and we're back.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Shalom and have a good evening.
Colombia, Ruben from Australia, Issachar, the Mexicans. That's who we be. Judah, the Negroes, Benjamin, the West Indians, Levi, the Haitians, Manasseh, Indians, Ephraim from Puerto Rico, and Valley from the Isles of Hawaii. The Lord is calling back Israel. Zebulon from Panama, Gad, the North American Indians, Simeon, the Dominicans,